is a Thursday afternoon, and this is 580 Sports Talk. I'm Brendan Dworzinski. That is Dan Lucero. 3 full hours of 580 Sports Talk coming your way today. And we've got a bunch to get to. Colorado, within the next few hours, at the very least, is going to announce that it is going to be the next member of the Big 12 Conference. We will get to that. What is next? What is the Pac-12 going to do? Remember yesterday when I was talking about reporters who have an agenda and are, for one reason or another, favoring the Big 12 or favoring the Pac-12 or have sources within one conference or another? Well, one of those guys who is as unashamedly agenda-driven as anyone, still trying to spin this positively for the Pac-12. But they just lost one of their 10 teams, and they're going to get better. They're actually going to find someone better, Dan.
They're going to trade up.
Told. They're going to trade up.
Big 12's going to trade up.
Yeah, we'll see about that.
It's just a little slimy. It's still good. It's still good.
So we'll get to that. What is the future for the Big 12? There's no way the Big 12 is staying at 13 teams. What is the future there? So we'll touch on that all here in this opening hour of 580 Sports Talk. Also this hour, we'll play some either or over under as we do every Thursday afternoon. And Rick Peterson will stop by for the Invista Credit Union High School Whip Around. Lots to get to, even though we are still in the midst of the high school sports offseason. We are getting closer and closer to the start of the high school football season. In fact, 1 month from tomorrow, tomorrow will be the 28th of July. The 28th of August will be our first high school football coaches club of the year. So we are getting that close to the start of the high school football season. We'll talk all about the high school scene and a little Washburn football, too, with Pistol coming up in the 3 o'clock hour. We'll also talk to Fulton today. He'll swing back in. Just got 3 full hours of him earlier, but he'll join us for some crosstalk at the top of the 4 o'clock hour. We'll take a look at a stock watch for the Chiefs. A little stock up, stock down action in the 4 o'clock hour. Nate Taylor of The Athletic with an interesting piece regarding a similar premise. So we'll get to that in the bottom of the 4 o'clock hour. We'll get to our 580 Sports Talk headlines. What is wrong with you? And an all-time rant by Sean Payton today. He has some thoughts about who was coaching his now team, who used to coach his now team. Nathaniel Hackett, formerly of the Denver Broncos, now the New York Jets. Some spicy takes from Sean Payton today. So we will get to that as well. We're taking your texts all day long. Text line number is 785-272-9429. And our YouTube video stream can be found on YouTube. Sports on 580 WIBW is the name of our channel. Also, some late breaking news, I guess, right at the top of the hour, right as we were going on here. Joe Burrow appears to have suffered a lower leg injury at Bengals camp today. There is video out there of it happening. He was rolling out to the right. What appeared to be in a drill, flushed out of the pocket, came up limping. I can't tell which calf, I believe it is.
Looks like his right calf.
Right calf? Okay.
They're saying that he was wearing a black compression sleeve on his right calf today that he was not wearing yesterday, and that is the afflicted leg in the clip. So
interesting.
He comes hopping away from the play, goes down, they bring the cart out. You hope, obviously, that it is nothing serious. You wonder if, given the record heat that we're dealing with in a lot of places right now, maybe it's cramp. Maybe there is some kind of calf injury. Maybe it's something much more serious than that. We don't know. We won't speculate. But yeah, that's not anything you want to be dealing with in any circumstance. If you are an NFL team, having your quarterback leave practice on a cart.
You know what else you don't want to deal with if you're the quarterback? The fact that you're looking for a big contract. And if we know anything about the way the Cincinnati Bengals handle business with money, not always the most willing to just throw things around. So we will see, and we'll keep you updated if we get an update on what happened to Joe Burrow at Bengals camp in Cincinnati earlier today. But our top story on this Thursday afternoon, the impending jump by the Colorado Buffaloes out of the Pac-12 and into the Big 12, a reversal of roles from back in 2010, 2011, when the Buffs left the conference they had been in since the late 1940s, and they joined the Pac-12 originally. The Colorado is it the Board of Regents who's meeting today?
Yes.
They are meeting at 4 o'clock our time, 3 o'clock Mountain. So we might get some breaking news while we're chatting with Fulton at the top of the 4 o'clock hour for Crosstalk today. But there are a few different reasons that have become more clear and more into focus over the last 24 hours regarding why Colorado is making this happen. Max Olson wrote about it over at The Athletic. Why is Colorado leaving the Pac-12? Why would they want to go back to the Big 12? And it appears that there's a few reasons why. One, and this came up as early as when the news broke yesterday, the Big 12 kind of said, hey, look, we got to know by August 1st. Like, what are you going to do? You know what, or get off the pot, pretty much.
Right.
So that was part of it. Colorado was, from the very beginning, the most willing to say, maybe this is worth it. Maybe we should explore this. Maybe we should be open to switching leagues again. And also, the Big 12 really wanted Colorado. That was the school that, going back to writing from as far back as June 1st, that's where Max Olson first wrote about this, that's what the Big 12 wanted. Like, they wanted the Colorado Buffaloes, the University of Colorado, to be back in the fold.
Yeah, they were priority number one. And I hope that for any Colorado fans or alumni that might still be iffy on the move, I think all you need to know is the contrast in reporting. You've got on one side, John Canzano and the like saying, well, the Pac-12 can trade up with Colorado out of the league. And on the other side, you have reporting that is confirmed via multiple sources that when the Big 12 decided they were going to expand, Colorado was priority one, not anybody else. Not Oregon, not Washington, not Arizona, not UConn, not Gonzaga, Colorado. Big 12 board, their board of directors, or whatever, however you want to refer to it, university presidents, athletic directors, they wanted Colorado. This is the league that wanted this athletic department. And I said as much yesterday, but I want to reiterate again today how much I think this is going to benefit University of Colorado athletics. Colorado's got one of the smaller athletic departments in the Power Five when it comes to just strictly how many sports are offered. Like, you go and look, they have no bat and ball sports, no baseball, no softball. Dropped baseball in 1980. They've never seriously considered bringing it back since. They've lost sports before they've added sports in recent years. They got a pretty small athletic department. So football and basketball and volleyball are pretty big deal sports for Colorado.
I was going to say, I'm sorry to interrupt you. What was the one sport? Because KU and K-State only have 16. Colorado's got 17. Skiing. Okay. That I didn't even know that was an NCAA sponsored sport. I thought that was a different governing body. So there you go.
Yeah. They win a lot of championships in NCAA skiing. I don't know if you believe that.
Oh, I do.
They've got they got quite a dynasty going in skiing. That's how they added to the Conference of Champions. I'm sure the Pac-12 was happy to claim those skiing championships as part of the Conference of Champions heritage. But I think in joining the Pac-12, Colorado saw itself joining peer institutions, like academically speaking. Colorado, very good school. University of Colorado's excellent.
Oh, yeah.
Excellent school. They're a member of the AAU. I think they looked at themselves in kind of being like a Cal or schools of that ilk, closer to a Stanford than maybe the land grant colleges that made up the old Big Eight. I think that's how they view themselves as an institution and wanted to be with institutions like that. But those schools in the Pac-12, they don't take sports seriously, I guess is what I'm getting at here, is that's not outside of the Nike money that has flooded Oregon athletics and outside of the success that USC has had in football, or, the historic success of UCLA in basketball. That is not a league that has been as committed athletically from top to bottom as other athletic conferences.
Mm-hmm.
Probably you would say the least committed athletically of any of the Power Five.
I would say without a doubt.
Of any of the Power Five conferences.
Specifically to the major sports. Like, you talk to people at Cal, they're probably all about their rowing program, the sailing program, let's be honest, the country club sports.
UCLA water polo.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Football, not as much commitment, not as much want to.
It's not as much of a priority. And because you're limited in terms of your geography, because you can only expand in one direction. You can't go further west. You can't expand. You can only expand one way, not in a bunch of different directions. It also limits your recruiting. It limits your player pool. It limits your talent pool. And Colorado athletics, basketball got to a good place with Tad Boyle, a better place than it had been. Also still a place where they've only made the tournament one time in the last 6-7 years. And obviously football went off the cliff. Colorado football was, if not the powerhouse in the old Big 8 or the Big 12, like they won Big 12 championship in 2001. They played for the Big 12 championship in 2003. Yeah, they got wiped off the face of the earth by Texas, but that's neither here nor there. They got there is the point. They were a solid program, an outstanding program through the 90s, a solid program into about the mid-2000s, and they had the Gary Barnett scandal. Things blew up a little bit, and they made bad hire after bad hire. They got in that Kansas pattern of just hiring the wrong guy. And with one weird blip, the Mike McIntyre season where they went to the Pac-12 championship game, outside of that, it's been pretty bad for Colorado football. But in the Big 12, you are now joining institutions that are committed, top to bottom. Everyone in the Big 12 is committed to athletic success. And yes, there are good schools. The land-grant schools are outstanding. There are good schools in the Big 12. Maybe no Stanfords, maybe no West Coast Ivies like Stanford, but good schools in the Big 12 and committed to athletic success and a much larger continental footprint, not coastal footprint, continental footprint than the conference that Colorado is leaving. That's going to enable them to recruit better. That's going to enable them, I think, to get back to a point where they've got a serious athletic department. Because I think I think that they fell behind. They fell into an attitude about athletics that was not conducive to success at Colorado. And I think being in the Big 12 will get them back to a point where they can have more success, where their football program can get going in the right direction. And look, you've got evidence that a downtrodden program, a program that you think entering the league is going to be really hurting in a revenue sport. Let's look at TCU basketball. Like, what was TCU basketball when TCU took that offer to join the Big 12?
It wasn't that long ago. They literally played in a high school gym.
They played in a high school gym. Everybody thought, well, TCU joined in the car. Okay, well, that's 2 wins for everybody in the round robin. TCU got serious about basketball. They renovated their arena. They hired a serious coach in Jamie Dixon, and they've won. They've been in the NCAA tournament. They've been a program to be reckoned with in the Big 12 over the last couple of years. So that path is there even for the most downtrodden of programs in this league, because you'd better be serious. You'd better be committed, or you will be the laughingstock of the league in the revenue sports. Now, I don't think Colorado's coming to this league to be a laughingstock. I think the hiring of Deion Sanders, and again, I think you can agree, or you can have your opinion on what way that's going to go, but you don't do that if you aren't making a bet on flipping the fortunes of your football program. And, that's the front porch of your athletic program. So I think that this is further evidence that Colorado's committed to being a serious athletic department in a way that I don't think the Pac-12 really allowed them to be.
With the benefit of hindsight, if you look back to last decade's realignment and the 4 teams that ended up leaving the Big 12, it was all teams that thought they were something that they're not. Seriously. And it works out for Colorado that they now get a chance to go back athletically and to a degree academically to a conference that is more so their peers than where they ended up. Seriously, Colorado has been no better in the Pac-12 than they were in the Big 12. And they have more in common with Kansas and Oklahoma State and Iowa State than they do with Stanford and Cal. And realistically, is it a good school? Yeah, it's a lot more like a KU, a K-State than it is a Stanford. That's just the fact of the matter. And if they really want to pump money into their program, if they really want to have a more serious athletic department, be in a conference with peer schools that also care and want to have strong athletic departments. Look at the other three schools that left. Texas A&M has had the most success of anyone. Do you know how many double-digit win seasons they've had since they left the Big 12?
One.
It was their first one. It was the first year under Kevin Sumlin.
Yeah.
When they first left for the SEC. They went 11-2. They won the Cotton Bowl. They finished top 5 in the country. After that, I mean, they've been good. Last year was by far their worst year, but a lot of 9 and 8 win seasons. They've been very good.
Mm-hmm.
You tell me they couldn't have done that in the Big 12?
They absolutely could have done it in the Big 12.
Especially with Texas down for the last several years. Yeah.
Mizzou's a good example of this, too. Like, Mizzou joined the SEC, and they won a couple division titles right off the rip.
When they got, by the way, destroyed in both conference championship games. And here's what Mizzou has been since. A buddy of mine put this out. He's a Mizzou grad. He put this out because he was in the camp. There was a radio host in Kansas City yesterday who tweeted Missouri should go back to the Big 12. And everyone was like, oh, look at all the money. Oh, are you getting a cut of that? Oh, Tiger Dan from Jeff City. You getting a cut of that? Oh, is that your money now? No. I know why Missouri would never leave the SEC, but come on, give me a break with that. Since winning the SEC East back-to-back years, here's how Missouri has finished the regular season, or their overall record, 5-7, 4-8, 7-6, 8-5, 6-6, 5-5 in the COVID year, 6-7, 6-7. You're telling me that you couldn't have done that or better in the Big 12 with the kind of recruits that Eli Drinkwitz can pull in? You're telling me you couldn't have gone 6-7 in the Big 12
while playing regional rivals you cared about playing? Like, come on. Don't lie to me, Mizzou fans, and tell me you like playing Kentucky.
No.
Don't lie to me and tell me you like playing Vandy. Don't even lie to me and tell me you enjoy the Georgia or Alabama. Yeah, cool. You get to come see them. You get to see those teams. Great. Anybody can see them. All the games are on TV now. You get to see them at your stadium, stomp out your team. That's a privilege.
Yeah, we got the payday. Oh, sick, dude. Oh, cool. What does your bank account look like then?
Right.
What does your bank account look like, Chet from St. Louis? How'd that help you out? Oh, it didn't at all because you're full of it? Yeah, okay. Nebraska thought it was a big dog. Nebraska thought it could get away and it could run the Big Ten. You know what it's gotten? Damn near run out of the Big Ten. They are a joke. Joke.
One conference title game appearance? Maybe two?
It was the one where they got blown out by a Wisconsin
and they gave up 70 to Wisconsin. Yeah. That's how that went. Then a whole bunch of 4-loss seasons, and that wasn't good enough. 9 wins wasn't good enough, so they hired Mike Riley. The ceiling with Mike Riley was Bo Pelini seasons, but the coach is nice, and they didn't even get there.
Not
they were
even close.
Scott Frost, disaster. We'll see how the Matt Rule era goes, but yeah, the success, the level of success there. And are you telling me Nebraska fans enjoy playing Illinois? Are you telling me Nebraska fans get fired up when Purdue comes to Memorial Stadium?
No chance. Absolutely no chance.
You don't think they miss playing Kansas in basketball? You don't think they miss playing Kansas State in football? I guarantee you they do.
Yeah, absolutely. So Colorado, in a way, benefits from their new conference being managed so terribly and not having Alabama in it. Or honestly, more importantly, because this is one of the biggest reasons why the Pac-12 has failed in the last decade, USC has been down.
Mm-hmm.
That more than anything, Oregon's been good. Washington in a playoff year. Oregon and Washington are not USC. They're just not. And that is as big of a reason as anything. So mismanagement and the premier team in the conference being bad in some points and certainly not good, they get lucky that they get to go back to be where they truly belong. Now, where I'm most fascinated by this, even more so, I think, than what the Big 12 is going to do next, are equally similar. Because I think we know the backup plan is UConn. We know that the Big 12 would love to add someone else from the Pac-12.
I'm not entirely sure the backup plan is UConn. I think that's Brett Yormark's plan A. I think Brett
really. I would think that's like if we couldn't pull Arizona or Washington.
No, I think this is Brett Yormark saying we're going to get Colorado done, and it's going to give me the political capital to sell the rest of the ADs on bringing UConn in. Max Olson had this today in The Athletic, that when Yormark looks at UConn, he doesn't see their football record since 2013, which is, by the way, wretched, 27-83. He doesn't see, like a small town, Stores, Connecticut. What he sees, and now I'm going to quote from Olson's piece in The Athletic, Yormark sees an entry point to New York City. He sees a dominant basketball conference and big-time events at Madison Square Garden. He sees a future in which the Big 12 makes more money down the road by decoupling its media rights package and selling its basketball rights separately. Conference sources say he sees a sort of buy low opportunity here, a bet that the Big 12 investing in UConn over the rest of the decade will drive up the conference's value. For him, there's no hesitation. There's real conviction. That's Max Olson in The Athletic today. I think UConn is plan B. I think Colorado and UConn is always the plan.
I think there's a lot of value in splitting it up and having a basketball deal and a football deal be different. I do. That goes back to my point I made years ago about how I wish we just had different football and basketball conferences, period, and Olympic sports conferences, period. Okay. So with that piece in mind, then, that's good stuff from Max Olson. The Big 12 is either going to add UConn or Arizona or Utah or some other Pac-12 school. Someone else is coming. That is going to happen.
They're not going to play a season of 13. Somebody else is coming in 2024, and that somebody will get a full piece of the pie, that $31.7 million per year from the media rights deal, the pro rata, they call it, because there's another share to be handed out. There were 14 shares of it. Texas and Oklahoma leaving the conference. Colorado gets one of their shares. Somebody else going to get the other.
Yep.
So who's that going to be for 2024?
For the Pac-12, they're at 9 teams. Well, all the reports indicate they will be at 9 teams probably by the end of tonight.
Possibly as soon as an hour from now.
What do you do? And there's been reporting from multiple places, including John Canzano, who nowadays his writing is at his own website. He's also a radio host in Oregon. He's written for newspapers before. It says they're looking to get the Pac-12 presidents are having a meeting today as well. The Pac-12 CEOs is what they call them because you just have to be as pretentious as possible. They are going to try to vote on approving expansion ASAP so they can find a 10th team and then they can go get a meeting. Because now, as it stands with Colorado leaving, any media discussion is off the table for the Pac-12. It's not like holding pattern. It's off the table.
Yes, because who's going to do a big TV deal for a 9-team conference?
No one.
And 9 teams for a football season, you got to scramble to find another non-league game?
Yeah.
That's a nightmare.
Yeah, nightmare. So they're going to add someone. And Canzano's sourcing, which is someone at either Oregon or Washington State, I guarantee you, said that they're going to try to trade up, that by Colorado leaving, they actually might be better off. Here, even with Colorado being down for a long time now, and they have been, but it's still Colorado. This is a team that in the 1990s won a national championship. This is a team that was at one point, not that long ago, but in college sports a long time ago, was a major national brand, okay? And has been a national brand to some degree since being in the Big 8 for decades and decades and decades. The 62 years they were in that conference, Big 8, Big 12. So here are the options, realistically, that have been brought up by other sources and that I could think of that could replace Colorado. San Diego State, that's the obvious one. Sounded like they were going to get an invitation. Then Kliavkoff continued to screw up the media rights situation. Now they had to tuck their tail between their legs, go back to the Mountain West, and it would now cost them $35 million to leave. San Diego State can't afford $35 million.
No. Where's that coming from? Who's the boosters going to write that check?
No.
Are the other Pac-12, the remaining Pac-9 going to write that check? Are they going to cover that fee? I don't think so.
Especially when they all owe Comcast $10 million for getting overpaid. Yeah, no chance. No chance. SMU, they've been rumored. I mean, I guess they're like the 7th most popular program in Dallas.
It's their exit fee is a little more palatable. So I think it's only like
10 to 15
for the AAC. They've got, I'm sure, a donor or two that can write that check. But okay, congrats. You got SMU. You got if SMU joined the Big 12, they would be the best school in Texas in that conference. They would be the worst. I'll just tell you right now.
It'd be them in Houston battling for the bottom for next season. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I don't mean football. I mean just in terms of your athletic department. Yeah, you're below TCU. You're below Baylor. You're below Tech. You're below Houston.
Yeah. And I don't have a personal vendetta against SMU. It's just the reality of it. They don't move the needle like a team that has been a legacy brand.
None of this is personal. That's the thing. That's where it's gotten really wild on Twitter, is that it has gotten personal.
Which, like, why? Like, I don't care. I don't care about, like, oh man, gotta get my Big 12 t-shirt. I can't wait for Big 12. No, like,
now I need that Bathing Ape gear. That's where.
Well,
that's where
I do need that Bape gear. But like, I went to KU. That's why I care about it, because we live here. We live right in between two of the, by the way, premier brands in the new Big 12, between KU and K-State. Like, that's why I care about it. I'm not like, oh yeah, Big 12. I love it. I'm flying that Big 12 flag in front of the house. No, I'm not going to do that. But it's the reality. Like, big brands that have big alumni bases mean more than smaller brands that have smaller alumni bases. Like Colorado State. Colorado State has fumbled the bag so badly. They've got, for a while, they had a pretty good AD in, I thought Joe Parker was a good AD. They have a beautiful football stadium. It is awesome. They hired a good coach in Jay Norvell. They were the most unwatchable team in football last year. The single most unwatchable team in major college football last year. They've never won anything.
No.
Ever.
Couple of 10-win season or two under Sonny Lubick in the early 90s. Bradley Van Pelt was fun. Like, what else are you getting from Colorado State?
Mike Bobo went to a bowl game. Like, that's it. Air Force? They're not adding Air Force. Okay.
And I can tell you this, like, Colorado's already a professional sports state.
Sure.
So you don't have like a ton of like casual CU fans. There's like people who move to Colorado don't start following the Buffs. So it's an alumni heavy fan base, but they're still a flagship school in the state. Nobody, and I mean nobody. If you're trying to sell the Denver market, ain't nobody ever care about Colorado State or Air Force.
No,
chance. Absolutely not. Even when they were good.
Who else is there in the West? You want to add UNLV? No. You want to add Fresno State? You think Cal is going to say, yeah, bring in Fresno State? No chance.
They've got pretty big exit fees too. That they're like, where are you coming up with that money? Where are you coming up with the money for your exit fee so that you can bail out the Pac-9? Because that's essentially what it is. They would be asking you, the Pac-9 would be asking those schools, would be asking an Air Force, I don't know, sell a jet or two, and maybe they can come up with
maybe
sell a jet, and they can come up with $34 million. But like Colorado State's not coming up with that money. UNLV isn't coming up with that money.
No, they sure as hell are.
Hot night at the Bellagio, they're still not coming up with that money.
No. So all this, like, they will add someone, and it's going to probably end up being SMU because they're the most. They're going to. SMU is the David Beatty in this situation. Well, they're cheap and they're there.
Yeah.
Seriously, and again, nothing personal, but that's where they are. So they're going to have to add someone. It'll probably be the cheapest school they can get. And it's going to keep deteriorating. And that's sad, but it is what it is. I wish they weren't going to fall apart. I think that's bad for college sports that these legacy brands are dying. But I don't know. Don't hire the worst people in all of college athletics as your commissioner back to back. Maybe you're not in this spot. We'll talk about this more to lead off the 4 o'clock hour when Fulton joins us for Crosstalk. We've got to get to our first break of the show right here. We'll play a little either or over under next. Then we'll talk to Rick Peterson later on in this opening hour of 580 Sports Talk. We've got a quick round of either or, over under coming your way before we get to Rick Peterson. Either or is the theme for mine. You get Ralphie or the Field, the best live mascot in college sports.
Oh man, I can't answer anything but Ralphie. Haven't seen it in person. Having seen Ralphie run pregame at Fulton Field, and this is back in I'm talking when I was a kid. I'm talking about mid '90s. I'm talking about like a top 10 matchup between Colorado and Michigan at Fulton Field. I'm talking about Oklahoma State being in town for a Big 8 game, and Ralphie's running, and that stadium is full. And he got that Rocky Mountain Thunder going. Man, yeah, it's Ralphie. It's got to be. There are lots of others I like. There are lots of really good dogs. You know, I'm a dog person. I love Reveille at Texas A&M, Smokey at Tennessee. Any and all of the Bulldog mascots are great, too. And I've got a soft spot for Mike the Tiger at LSU. But no, the spectacle that is Ralphie running out of the tunnel, you can't beat it. It is one of the best things about college football, and I'm excited it's now a Big 12 tradition again.
I like every live animal mascot. They're all good. Colorado's got another, Cam the Ram. Love Cam. It just sits there and eats grass. Does nothing else. It's awesome. They run it on the field. It's like a parody. It's very funny. My favorite Bulldog is Blue at Butler. I just saw a picture of Dubs, the Husky at Washington today. Great dog. Now Ralphie's the best. Easily. Even having never seen it in person, just the video of it is incredible. Very good animal.
Yeah.
All live animal mascots are good, though.
No, it's awesome.
K-State, go find a Wildcat.
By the turn of the century, this is an over-under, or by the turn of the century, by the turn of the decade, say by 2029, 2030,
okay,
the Big 12 Conference will have over-under 14 and a half members.
I will say under. I'll say it stays at 14. I don't love the numbers with that. Fitz talked to us about that yesterday during the Wildcat wrap-up, that 14 is kind of a weird number to schedule with. You do have to get a little creative with that in terms of the year-to-year conference matchups in football and basketball, for that matter. I do think they'll stay at 14. Now, if you give me a year after that, you want to give me like 30, 31, 31, 32.
That's when their media deal's up.
That's when I would maybe lean toward over, because who knows what the Pac-12 schools are going to look like. That's several years closer to when the ACC falls apart. I might lean differently, but I think we will have a mostly stable conference for the rest of the decade. So I'll say under. It stays at 14.
I think they're going to get to 16. I do.
Okay.
I think UConn gets them to 14 for 2024, but they've got it written in their contract, in their media deal, that if they add Power 5 schools, those schools get a full conference share of the revenue from the TV deal. And I have to think that's going to be very, very attractive when all the dust settles to some Pac-12 members who might want to hold the rope together for the short term, but will be looking for a lifeboat in the long term. Maybe it's Oregon, Washington. Maybe it's Arizona, Utah. Maybe it's some different permutation of those schools. But I think that happens. I think they get to 16. I don't think it takes them too long.
It is significant to note that the Pac-12 does not have a grant of rights beyond this year. But Colorado does not have to pay an exit fee.
No.
They can just walk on over to the Big 12 after this year. If they don't get a number soon, what's going to stop Utah from saying, okay, well, we don't have to pay you. There's no real future here, so we're out. I don't think it'll happen. That's not my guess, but it is certainly possible. And the money obviously changes things a lot. We have another quick break on tap. Then we'll talk to Rick Peterson from TopSports.news coming up on 580 Sports Talk.
makes Rick a citizen of the world.
Joining us now on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline is Rick Peterson from TopSports.News. It's time for the Invista Credit Union High School Whip Round. You can find all of Pistol's phenomenal work covering our local teams over at TopSports.News, and you can find him on Twitter as well at Peterson_Rick. What's going on, Pistol? Are you staying cool with these blazing hot temperatures outside?
Well, it's a challenge. Let's put it that way. But I'm doing fine.
That's the nice part of this time of year, right? You can spend a little bit more time indoors than outdoors covering a game.
Yeah, the air conditioning is working fine, so that's a priority.
Absolutely is. Well, we've got plenty to get to today, Pistol. But first things first, before we get to the high school sports, I actually wanted to talk to you a little bit about Washburn football. It was MIAA Media Day earlier this week. I know you had some content up at the website, topsports.news, about the start of the season. Washburn picked 4th in the league this year behind some of the usual suspects at the top of the league. What's your projection for Washburn this year? Do you feel like this is a team that's got legit playoff hopes, or they may be a year away with some of the defensive turnaround? What's your early preseason feel on Craig Schurig's group for this year?
Well, it's a challenge to make the playoffs every year because I don't necessarily agree with the way they do the Division II playoffs. MIAA always has plenty of teams that are legitimate playoff contenders, but it's hard to get many in because of the way they do it, and they try to, get from other areas and other regions of the country. But so really, almost the MIAA gets penalized for being so good. As far as my projection, Coach Schurig and I talked, and we thought when they announced the polls, we thought Washburn could be picked anywhere from 4th to probably 6th, just because it's really, really balanced. I think the conference might be as balanced as it's ever been since I've been covering it anyway.
How excited are you to see Kellen Samancic play this year? Obviously, started off his career looking really dang good for Washburn. Last season came to an end early, unfortunately, due to an injury to his right shoulder. How excited are you to watch him? Because the word coming out of Washburn camp and practice is that he is going to be pretty darn special, and that could certainly start this year.
Well, I thought he had a great year last year until he went down with that injury in week 9 again at Northeastern State. He had surgery. He said it took about a couple months before he could throw again. He was able to get back in time for spring ball, which he thought was very important because he's dealing with a real, not necessarily unproven, but different set of receivers. And the reason I say that is because, number 13, J.J. Lesher, and number 2, Peter Offel, they were the key. They were the leaders of that group last year. Tice Brown's going to be good, I think, and several others I think will be good. But he spent the spring kind of getting to know those receivers that'll be the key core of that group this year.
We're chatting with Rick Peterson from TopSports.News, covers all of our local teams, high school and Washburn. For TopSports.News, head over there for all of his phenomenal coverage. You can also follow him on Twitter, where his handle is at Peterson_Rick. All right, Pistol, let's dive into the latest polls and the latest sports in the TSN Best of the Best contest. We got to wrestling a little bit earlier this week, and alphabetically, if I'm not mistaken, is that our last one?
Yep, we start the list tomorrow. I'll start with the baseball list tomorrow. I had a lengthy meeting today. I've been talking to some people and touching base with some coaches. I had a long meeting today with Kevin Haskin, who had this job and this beat before I did, going back to the mid-'80s. So we went over a lot of teams, and I'm ready to go with baseball's list tomorrow.
Over the last week or so, what have been some of the most fun trips down memory lane? We talked about this a while back, looking back and saying, wow, I might not have known this about this program, or wow, I forgot that this team did this thing. What have been some of those fun trips down memory lane for these last couple of sports?
Well, exactly that. Some of these you kind of forgot about. It's been a while since Marcel Carter and Troy Wilson were two of the absolute legends of this area in track and field and stuff like that. Softball, a lot of the softball teams, I just didn't realize how many great softball teams there were over the years. that's the thing. I mean, even though I'm always around it, it still bring back some things that I had kind of maybe forgot about it or hadn't thought about it in a long time.
Without giving too much away, and again, we will see the final lists for all of the sports in order beginning tomorrow over at topsports.news. If you can pull one off the top of your head, Pistol, what do you think was the hardest ranking and list for you to come up with personally?
Well, football was really tough. There was several that could have gone there. Boys basketball was really tough. Girls basketball was really tough. There were several that are kind of legendary teams in Shawnee County, and only one can be one. And so that was tough. That's why I've been touching base with a lot of people, and I don't expect everybody to agree. I don't want everybody to agree. I mean, you can, if you and Dan sat down and wrote a list, and this goes for all kinds of stuff, you're never going to all agree on something. I always use the example, you could have 5 guys sitting at a game taking football stats, and you're going to probably have 5 different sets of stats. It's the same way with this list. You could have 5 guys, and probably all of them are going to be at least a little different on their top teams.
But that's what makes it fun, right? Is all the different perspectives.
Yeah, and I don't want anybody to think that, like I said, there's so many that could be number one. If you're on the top 10, or if you're in the top 10 in what I call the Reader's Choice Awards, hey, it's a big accomplishment. And I said before, all I want to do with this is get a little people, get some attention for the local teams, and get people, like we just talked about, thinking about maybe some teams they haven't thought about in a long time.
We've got a few more minutes with Rick Peterson here on the Invista Credit Union High School Whip Around on 580 Sports Talk. Pistol joining us on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits Hotline. You can follow him on Twitter at Peterson_Rick. And of course, go find all of his tremendous content of all of our local teams over at topsports.news. Pistol, something that comes up, I think, pretty much every summer as we get kind of a reset in the high school sports world. I like to ask about the future of what sports will actually be sponsored by Acacia. And I know that not every school in the state sponsors every single sport. I understand that to be the case for one reason or another. But as we look ahead to another year when obviously nothing will change for 23-24, but if you had to guess right now, what do you think is the next sport, or maybe the next couple of sports that you could see being sponsored by Acacia in the near future? Whether it's, a new gender for a certain sport like volleyball. I know I would be all in on boys volleyball in the state, something completely off the board. What do you think could potentially be coming down the pipeline in the upcoming years?
Well, I know, male volleyball is something that's big in some areas, and that comes up a lot. I hear people talk about that a lot. I don't know where you put some of these sports. Already the seasons kind of overlap in a lot of areas and things like that. So that's something you got to do. Volleyball definitely something. There's a big push now for making, some states have done it, making like cheer and spirit regular sports.
Okay.
And again, I don't know how you do that, but I know some states have. And it's just, I think we're in a pretty good, like I said, I'm always in favor of things that allow athletes to do multi-sports. And we're at a point now, it's getting increasingly difficult to do that just because of the overlap. So I just don't know where you put new sports, but I think volleyball is a one that I think will definitely be looked at. And I really like the list of sports we have right now. I thought it was very big to get girls wrestling in a few years ago.
For sure.
And it's still growing by leaps and bounds. But I like, whatever we have now, 21, 22 sports. I think we've done a good job in the state for, we have sports that some other states don't have. And then probably some other states have sports that we don't have. But that's always going to happen.
To that last point you made, Pistol, and this is the last one I've got for you. I've got a buddy who's a journalist down in Alabama, a sports writer, and he wrote a story just yesterday about how the Activities Association in Alabama is officially, as of this year, sponsoring, or maybe as of next year, sponsoring girls flag football. And I thought of that and how girls wrestling has become so big in this state, and as you mentioned, continues to grow. I know that the way they view football in Alabama is different than most places in the country, but we have a football-obsessed country in general, Pistol. So I was wondering, especially now with a couple of flag football college programs for women in the state at Kansas Wesleyan and Ottawa, among others, do you think that's something that, at least in theory, could happen at some point in this state?
Maybe at some point. I think we're way off on something like that.
Okay.
And again, I think we're getting pretty loaded. Now, another state, and I don't know about how Alabama does things, but there are some states that put certain sports just in the summer. And if you put some sports just in the summer, that might open up some areas for other sports. But I kind of like the way we do things in Kansas. By the end of May, you're done. You can have some summer while still working to get ready for the next season. But again, it kind of comes down to what the National Federation's doing and their members are doing, and it kind of has a carryover to the different states.
The absolute best coverage of all of our Topeka and Shawnee County high schools, as well as Washburn athletics, comes from Rick Peterson, and you can find all of his work over at topsports.news. You can also find him on Twitter, where his handle is at Peterson_Rick. He joins us every Thursday at this time for the Invista Credit Union High School Whip Around. As always, Pistol, thanks so much for hanging out with us, for spending some time with us, and we will talk to you soon.
Look forward to it.
That is the one and only Rick Peterson joining us on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits Hotline. Yeah, I saw that yesterday, and I thought I could see it. The other issue, though, is you need to have enough people to sponsor all of these sports. And with so many, I know we have so many athletes in our area that do multiple, sometimes 3 or 4 throughout the course of the year. Is our population big enough to support more sports? But I thought it was interesting. There's always room for change, always room for adaptation, I think. We've got 2 more hours coming up on 580 Sports Talk, and we will lead off the 4 o'clock hour with Crosstalk with Fulton here on 580 WIBW. It is the 4 o'clock hour of this Thursday edition of 580 Sports Talk. Welcome back to the program. Brendan Dworzinski, Dan Lucero here with you. Fulton Caster will be by for Crosstalk in just a matter of moments. Currently on the screen to my right, I've got the video up of the Colorado Board of Regents meeting. This is great. We've got...
It's a Zoom call, right?
It is a Zoom call.
How do we think they're going to vote? Are they going to do like the big vote at the end of dodgeball, where Chuck Norris gives the big thumbs up, and somebody gives that last thumbs up to Colorado moving back to the Big 12?
We might. This is okay. I'm going to go major like pandemic mode here. I could definitely grade the backgrounds of all the people on Zoom. Like a lot of them are like, one guy's got Folsom Field. One woman just changed hers to being the same shot that another guy has of the Colorado campus. Got a few office spaces. One guy's just kicking back in a chair. You can see his ceiling fan going in the back. He's just at home. Shout out to Glenn from the Board of Regents. So we will hopefully hear some breaking news from Colorado and them joining the Big 12 here in a matter of moments. Also this hour, we've got What Is Wrong With You, sponsored by Top City Metal Supply. And we will do a little stock watch with the Kansas City Chiefs at training camp, where there's some interesting competitions for playing time and starting jobs. Who do we have a lot of intrigue in? Players we'll keep our eyes on. We'll get to that a little bit later on this hour. But right now, we welcome in our good pal, Fulton Caster, one half of Mic'd Up with Jake and Fulton, although for the latter part of this week, it is just Fulton Caster on Mic'd Up with Jake on vacation. Fulton, welcome.
I was happy to be here, guys.
Thank you so much for being here. Overall, thoughts on Colorado coming back to the Big 12. I know you grew up in Big 12 territory, Big 8 territory, I suppose. I mean, played KU, K-State. Everybody played Colorado for 60 years. We were talking yesterday that maybe there are some people in the Colorado sphere that are not as excited about this as their old Big 8 mates. Where do you kind of land on the pros and cons of Colorado coming back?
I think this is a very good move for Colorado, both from just a vibes perspective or, just what kind of feels right. Because it feels right that Colorado's in the Big 12. That just naturally feels like a proper state of being for Colorado to be in the Big 12, to be in a conference with KU, K-State, Iowa State, teams like that, to be in this part of the country more consistently. It feels more proper that they're playing these teams than when they were playing out on the West Coast. That never felt really right. This is, as kind of I put it on Mic'd Up the other day, this just feels like home for Colorado. This is where they should be. This is where they belong. So from that perspective, this is awesome for them. And then I really also think just from a competitive athletic perspective, this is just a conference more on with their peers. Colorado athletically has never been, especially since the 90s have ended, a premier athletic institution. That's just not who they are. And that's not to try and, beat down the Big 12, because there's some great schools athletically in this conference. But the type of athletic success that exists, particularly on the football field even, is much more in line with Colorado and what they do and what their values are with the teams in this conference than what the Pac-12 was. The Pac-12 never felt like a proper fit. They never really felt, I would even say, fully accepted in the Pac-12 sphere. Whereas when they come back here, a majority of people are going to welcome them with open arms. It's never going to be perfect. No one can agree on everything these days, but a lot of people will welcome Colorado back with open arms. So I'm a big fan of it, and I hope they happily move back.
So it's effectively official. I don't know that they've taken their official vote. They're still discussing right now. But the president of the Colorado Board of Regents of the University of Colorado, did just say, quote, "The time has come to change conferences. They've appreciated being part of the Pac-12, but they are moving on." Additionally, the chancellor, Phil DeStefano, as we talked about yesterday, of the University of Colorado, said that he and athletic director Rick George both agreed the move to the Big 12 would set Colorado up for long-term success and, quote, "will provide stability in an era of unprecedented change in college athletics." And Dan, to the point you've brought up the last 24 hours, they both believe that there is more exposure for Colorado in the Big 12. That tells you all you need to know about where the Pac-12 is going.
Yes, because the one conference has a TV contract on paper and the other conference has a TV contract in theory that the commissioner won't tell anyone about.
Like, is it even in theory at this point?
The Pac-12
The
contract.
theory is that people will eventually want to watch Pac-12 athletics on their television.
Listen, the Pac-12 contract is exactly like that kid in middle school who said he had a girlfriend in Canada.
Yes, what you said yesterday.
Yes.
That's exactly what the Pac-12 TV contract is.
She's really hot. You don't know her.
Yeah,
though.
you don't know. She doesn't go to this school. She goes to a different school. Our media contract's really cool, but you don't know that network. It's a different network. You've never seen that network.
Yeah,
That's
you've never
what
heard of this network.
Which is, the fact, like Colorado, and kind of all this is telling you everything you need to know about the state of the Pac-12, that they're leaving for the Big 12 in part due to stability. That the Pac-12 doesn't know what's going on. They're running around like chickens with their heads cut off at this point. Whereas the Big 12 we have a stable, set agreement with ESPN and with Fox, with clauses in them that you get a full payout if you're a Power 5 team joining us. Like, the Big 12 negotiated a proper deal to where it made it even extraordinarily simple to fold new teams in if they were at it as well. So it makes perfect sense that Colorado's like, hey, we want stability on where we're going to be able to be seen on TVs and where our money's coming from. We're making this move.
All right, next question. Who do you think is going to be the 14th team? Because we can all agree it's going to be 14.
There's a 14th team, not playing 13.
They're not going to keep.
They're not
13.
doing that.
Who do you think it will be? Who do you most want it to be? So two different. Well, I mean, not necessarily.
It could be
Yeah,
the same
do
answer,
your fantasy booking, but then also live on our planet.
Yeah. So, man, I've been trying to go back and forth about this really all day, even a little bit yesterday when the series was announced, trying to figure out who the 14th team will be. Much like in the days of WCW, trying to identify who the third man was going to be, trying to identify the 14th.
I said that yesterday.
We have so much overlap in our
do.
references. It's that mind meld. We share a corner of the office here at the Alpha Media Studios.
We're all
and
within like 6 feet of each other.
it's mind meld. It genuinely is.
I should have known that Brendan also would have made that reference. Nonetheless, the more I think about it, a team that I think makes sense and would be a proper, easy fold in would be Utah. Because you have Utah and BYU, you have the Holy War, you have that in. That section of the country is kind of already there.
Utah and Colorado have had a nice rivalry in the Pac-12. That's kind of been Colorado's regional rival there that they've grown over the last decade.
They fit well. They fit well athletically. They even fit well academically. It all seems right. So if I had to think of who it is, I really think it'd be Utah. Who I'd want, or for a level of, man, it'd be awesome if they could get Oregon as the 14th team. I know it's a bit of a long shot. There's other things there. I know that there's definitely some not perfect things about the situation, but Oregon's competitiveness on the football field, at times their competitiveness on the basketball court, it gets you into the Pacific Northwest a little bit as well for a market situation. Can still be the question of fan base attractiveness, but beyond that, I think Oregon as a long shot would be a nice addition as the 14th team.
Get me Dana Altman back to Manhattan.
Yes.
From
Honestly, yes.
Adam Munster-Tiger, the publisher of Buff Stampede, it is a unanimous vote yes on the resolution.
Wow.
Colorado is coming back to the Big 12.
Welcome on, Buffs.
Yeah, that's where they belong.
Yep.
Wow, that's wild. After so long saying that we want to be a part of this, we'll work it out to have it turn. That's wild.
What does that
There was
tell
nothing to work
No,
out.
there wasn't.
There wasn't.
Phil DiStefano, the chancellor, laid all the CU's cards on the table last week before Pac-12 Media Day, when all of the news was, hey, there's not going to be a media deal to announce at Pac-12 Football Media Day. And it was DiStefano who said, hey, we actually expect to hear some numbers on Thursday. We're going to talk to Klevikoff, and we expect to hear some numbers. We expect to hear some details. And that was an ultimatum. That was we better hear some details.
And if you don't, see ya, we're leaving because we need numbers. We need details.
That went,
we won't be strung along.
It went 0 to 100 in less than 24 hours.
Yeah.
Like, we saw the first tweet about it. Pete Thamel's reporting was almost exactly 24 hours.
Yeah, it was like just at the top of the 4 o'clock hour, Thamel said it might be something. 20 minutes later, it was Colorado's going to the Big 12.
At 4:04 yesterday afternoon. That's crazy. Same question I just asked Fulton to you, because we already talked about UConn and the maybe more likelihood than I gave it credit for that they would be the 14th team. Is that who you would want to be that 14th team, or does that just maybe make the most sense?
I think that's what Brett Yormark's going to do.
Okay.
I think that's the direction he's going to try and steer the other 12, now 13 conference members and athletic departments to say, look, this is my vision. You have trusted my vision to this point. Look where that has gotten us. Trust my vision with the UConn Huskies. Trust my vision with that. I think it gives West Virginia a little company, gives UCF some company on the East Coast. Obviously, it's great for basketball. They are the reigning national champions. It's a big deal for basketball to get a team that good into the conference. If as we have talked about, the suspicion is that one of the long-term plays for Big 12 is to be the basketball league in the country. It squares with their interest with Gonzaga. I really think that UConn is. It's not going to be great for football, at least not right away. But again, like we talked about in the 3:00 hour, when TCU entered the league, it didn't go great for them in football right away, but they had established that football success. They went to a Rose Bowl out of the Mountain West Conference. Like, you knew what was possible there for football, but they came in basketball, and everybody looked at them and said, hey, man, that's 2 free wins for the rest of the conference as long as TCU's
They were
in the Big 12.
so bad at basketball to start.
Look what they are now.
They're good.
Look at the commitment to the program, the investment in the program, and the exposure the program has gotten has enabled them to take that program to a place. I mean, had TCU basketball ever been this good? This is like the golden era of TCU basketball. And I realize a couple of second-round exits in a row, it's not like we're talking about them like we're talking about the last 20 years of KU basketball, but still, TCU has
all relative.
TCU has gotten competitive in basketball. Who's to say UConn can't do the same thing in football? It's not the same level of difficulty, I don't think. Basketball and football are, apples and oranges. You need more players. You need a certain kind of athlete. It's a little tougher to recruit good football players in that part of the country. But they did just win 6 games to get to a bowl last year. Like, there's some positive momentum with that program. Much as I'm not a Jim Mora Jr. fan, clearly something went right in year 1 for them. So, maybe they've got a little forward momentum, and they might come into the league and be the bottom feeder, but who's to say they have to stay that way? Because that's not how it went for TCU football or basketball. So that is who I think it is going to be. I think that's where Brett Yormark is going to spend the political capital that he's now got from these 13 conference members. We can say 13 conference members of the Big 12 now. That's pretty wild.
Would that be your ideal fit?
No, I think the ideal is still like Oregon would be the best football brand if they joined a 14-team Big 12. If they were the 14th team, they would enter the league as the best football brand. Then the most nationally recognizable football brand would be Oregon's. And that would be a big deal because for all of the things that we consider to be strengths of the Big 12, I think there's still a bit of national perspective that says, well, who's good at football over there? Is it really good football, or is it just they're competitive because there's no great program? There's no program that every year they recruit at the level you expect them to be a playoff contender. You expect them to be a top 10 team year in, year out. That is a fair criticism because there isn't a program in the current Big 12 that is that. There are some programs, I think that's the ceiling they can get to in the new Big 12. I think that's Houston's ceiling. I think that's TCU's ceiling. I think that there are some other schools that would strenuously argue it is their ceiling. And I think Kansas State might be one of those schools that would argue that that is their ceiling. But that is definitely Oregon's ceiling. And getting a program like that into the Big 12, I think would be a big deal for the national perception of the league. So that would be the ideal. I would rank my order of preference: Oregon, Washington, Arizona, Utah, UConn.
By the way, for some historical perspective here, you're talking about the golden age of TCU basketball. They've made the NCAA tournament in 3 of the last 6 years. I do count 2020 in there because they were not going to make the tournament that year. They were 16-16 and had a losing record in conference. They weren't going to make it that year anyway.
Right.
No.
3 times in the last 6 years, they've made it back-to-back years. Do you know how many times in program history they had done either of those things?
Oh, like once?
They have never before been to the tournament 3 times in 6 years. Never in program history. The only other time they ever went back-to-back years was with head coach Buster Brannon back in 1952 and 1953.
With a name like Buster, definitely 50s era basketball right there.
That was an unseeded tournament. What did they have then? 16?
I think.
Was there only 16 teams at that point?
Yeah.
52, yeah.
Yeah, that's That's the last time.
God, it might have been 52. It might have been only 8.
It might have been. Yeah, lost NCAA regional tournament semifinal. That's what I can give you for TCU those 2 years. So yes, this quite literally has been the golden age for TCU basketball. Also, this is awesome. Their basketball or their sports reference page has a handwritten season box score in it from 1953.
Awesome.
Like they scanned it with a industrial copier.
Hell yes.
That rules.
That's awesome.
We have some more quotes from the Board of Regents.
Oh,
meeting.
yes, please.
Frank McNulty, Colorado Regent, says he liked the idea of the Pac-12, but, quote, it seems that idea is no longer going to be realized.
Whoa.
Well, dang.
Damn. Cooked them.
Got him.
But, I mean,
It's
is he wrong?
accurate. It's accurate.
Yeah. Wow.
It's 100% correct.
Once USC and UCLA left, I mean, that was your football identity was USC with Oregon and Washington as kind of the backing band.
And then UCLA occasionally when they wanted to be semi-competent.
Yeah. It is official. It is the Zoom call is over, by the way. It is
Wow,
in the book
that was
now.
a quick call.
That's fun.
So if it's true that the Big 12 has already voted yes on this, and that was reported that the athletic directors got together and voted yes last night, at what point does the Big 12 release something? Oh, at CU Buff, official. Colorado is heading back to the Big 12 conference.
Dan,
that's
your
as
question's
official
been
as
answered.
as official as official gets.
Yeah, the official account tweeting out that they're going back. That tells you something.
No, that's cool.
This is awesome.
This is
Great
awesome.
day.
I think it's a good thing. And I think people in Colorado are going to come around to it eventually, too.
I do, too.
Don't you think there's value in getting to play teams that matter to you? Like, seriously, I know I've been hammering that drum for the last 24 hours that it's important and it is meaningful to get to play teams that you played forever, that you have a history with, like those Colorado-Kansas basketball games in Boulder, or like getting to come play K-State, Iowa State, Oklahoma State in football again. Like, that should have meaning. That should have value. And I think, too, like, if you're a Utah fan and your keister's blowing in the wind right now, and you're thinking, well, we can either stick this out or with no exit fee, the Big 12 was interested at one point. Maybe it is worth it. What would you rather do? Hang around in a conference you've been in for barely over a decade when, like, you don't have any real history with any of the teams left? Or, you know what? We actually had a good time playing Colorado. We have a built-in, long-time, permanent rivalry with BYU just waiting for us. Why wouldn't you want to do something like that? That's why I think that line from Colorado's president, DeStefano, made a lot of sense. That, hey, look, like, this is better for us stability-wise.
Yeah.
We have no idea what the Pac-12 is going to be, so why not go somewhere where we do know what it's going to be? I think that makes a lot of sense.
It does. It's the right spot for them. It's just an overall right move. And I don't know what the Pac-12 is going to do now, or the Pac-9 or whatever is going on there. I have no idea what they're going to do to survive.
I will ask you what I asked Dan last hour. Ralphie versus the field. What is the best live mascot in college sports?
Dude, I mean, I think Ralphie's awesome. Ralphie is amazing.
This sounds like it's going elsewhere.
I think I'd have to take Ralphie. I think I'd have to.
Ralphie's number one.
So cool.
Yeah.
He's just a big old buffalo. Buffaloes in general are an awesome animal. Like, just
correct.
Devoid of the context of being a mascot, buffaloes are just cool.
Beautiful symbol of Americana.
They really are.
The great American comeback story, really.
Truly, honestly. The thing is, like, almost all live mascots are good. Like, I'm sure there's somewhere out there you could point to me a live mascot. Maybe I changed my opinion on.
I was going to say, what
good.
live mascot is bad?
I don't know. I like to leave the door open in case someone shoots me with new information that I go, okay, maybe there actually is one I don't like. As of now, I'd say they're all good. Live mascots rule. Like, all the bulldog mascots are awesome.
Correct.
Give me just a little bulldog. Like, when Uga was fighting with Bevo on the sideline, that was kind of funny.
I think you mean when Bevo attempted to murder Uga.
Hey, my man.
That
Uga,
was not going to end well for the dog.
My man Uga didn't blink. He looked down death square in the face and said, "Bring it on." So I respect that play, but no, they're all awesome. Live mascots rule. Every school, if they can, should have a live mascot.
Yes.
If possible, your school should have a live mascot.
Our alma mater cannot, unfortunately.
No, a live Jayhawk doesn't exist.
No, it is not
Unfortunately.
real.
But like K-State, put me a Wildcat on the sideline.
Didn't they have one at one point? K-State grads, I'm sure you know this better than I do. I am almost certain that at one point in program, I mean, it might have been 80 years ago.
Pick any Wildcat you want and put me a Wildcat on that sideline.
I could have sworn they had a real one.
We have a text from the 785. Could you imagine Alabama running onto the field with an elephant leading the way?
Yeah!
That would whip.
Yes,
Hell yeah.
that would rule.
Do it.
That would be awesome. Listen, if LSU can have a tiger, if they can have a literal living tiger, there's no mascot that's off limits.
All right. I have discovered a PowerPoint presentation from K-State's official website of school traditions. And apparently I was right. There was at one point
Did we have a living Willie?
Yes, 1922. They had touchdown, a live bobcat.
Yes. Bring that back.
Touchdown the bobcat.
Bring him back.
I don't know if we name him touchdown. We could just name him Willie. But no, give me a live Wildcat on the sideline.
No, you can't. That name is tainted. That ugly ass thing. No,
enough.
I'm sorry, K-State fans.
Hey,
I have no beef for you. I just have beef for your ugly mascot.
I found a picture of Touchdown 11. He is adorable.
I bet he is.
I bet he is.
I want to pet him. I want to snuggle his face.
Like Iowa State. I don't know what we can do to create a cyclone. You've had the bird thing before. Put me a bird on the sideline. I don't know. Baylor, give me a bear in a cage.
Yeah.
That's dangerous, but give me a bear in a cage. TCU, give me horned frogs. Put me a horned frog on a leash. Little tiny horned frog on a leash on the sideline.
You can do it.
Give me that. We can all have it.
South Carolina has a real rooster.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
That crows on the sideline. Yeah.
Yeah.
This is big. Colorado officially
Huge.
making it happen. We have a joint statement, by the way, from Rick George and Phil DeStefano. After careful thought and consideration, it was determined that a switch in conference would give CU Boulder the stability, resources, and exposure necessary for long-term future success in a college athletics environment that is constantly evolving. The Big 12's national reach across 3 time zones, as well as our shared creative vision for the future, we feel makes it an excellent fit for CU Boulder, our students, faculty, and alumni. Oh, they use an Oxford comma. Gross. These decisions are never easy, and we've valued our 12 years as proud members of the Pac-12 Conference. We look forward to achieving new goals while embarking on this exciting era as members of the Big 12 Conference. It is done. Colorado is heading back to the Big 12. Fulton, real quick, we will not talk to you before the trade deadline. Do Barlow and any other Royals get moved on Monday or by Monday?
Well, the trade deadline's August 1st, which is Tuesday.
Is it August 1st?
It is August 1st.
Okay, I've been saying
It
31st.
is 6
Either
p.m.
way.
Eastern, August 1st. So you will talk to me before the trade deadline.
Okay.
Well, Dan will.
Dan
You
will,
won't.
yeah.
You
Yeah.
won't. I still feel confidently Scott Barlow gets moved. And then I can't pick one of these specifically. I think either Nicky Lopez or Ryan Yarborough gets moved.
Oh, interesting.
Nicky, super utility defensive guy with a 322 on base percentage, good speed. That's useful to a contender. And Ryan Yarborough, for all his weird soft toss mechanics, his ERA is 2.55 since coming back from his injury. He can start, he can relieve. He's cheap as hell, like probably less than $1 million to the acquiring club for the rest of this year. I'm not saying it's going to get you a lot back, but you're telling me any of these contenders that need pitching, and there's a lot of them that need something. Like I said this earlier, Houston, the Astros desperately need arms. You're telling me with that offense, they couldn't just live with Ryan Yarborough every 5th day until they get healthy? That soft tossing dude just, giving you 6 innings, 3 runs. Even with the Crawford boxes that probably get a lot of home runs.
Yes.
No, I think you're making a salient point. We have now just heard from the Big 12 on Twitter in the style of the infamous Michael Jordan facts.
Oh, yes.
The following statement was released today by the Big 12 Conference through its commissioner, Brett Yormark, regarding the University of Colorado. They're back.
Wow.
This conference rules. This conference rules.
Hey, I will give Brett Yormark a lot of credit. He said he wanted to make the Big 12 cooler and a better brand. He absolutely, no doubt, has done that.
That rules.
What's coming up tomorrow?
First padded practice of Chiefs training camps. We're going to look at any updates from that, hear from some of the players and possibly coaches as well. And then Kent Swanson of the KC Sports Network is going to stop by. We're going to takes a look at some Chiefs things, and hopefully maybe there's a little bit of an update on Chris Jones tomorrow as well.
That is coming up tomorrow on Mic'd Up with Fulton from noon until 3 with Kyle Manthe as well. Fulton, we'll talk to you then.
Talk to you guys tomorrow. We'll at least talk to Dan tomorrow. Brendan, you enjoy vacation.
Yeah, I'm getting out of here. I'm going on vacation. See you nerds later.
I'll be around. You can say hi to me.
I'll say hi to you, Dan.
That is Fulton Caster from Mic'd Up. Let's get to a break. On the other side of this timeout, it's time for today's What Is Wrong With You, brought to you by Top City Metal Supply on 580 Sports Talk.
When hometown auto dealers like
What is wrong with you time on 580 Sports Talk? Brendan and Dan with you on this Thursday. It's my final What is Wrong With You of the week. I'm heading out on vacation. I'll be gone tomorrow through next week. So let's end this one with a banger, shall we?
It's also the last one of the month of July because we've got the semifinals on Friday, and then our monthly champion will be crowned on Monday's program.
How exciting. Very exciting. So it'll be Dan and our good pal Kyle Manthe to run through the semifinalists and finalists tomorrow and Monday here on the program. Do want to remind you that What Is Wrong With You is always sponsored by Top City Metal Supply, who cuts the metal you need to your specifications. That saves time, money, and material. Never settle when it comes to metal. Top City Metal Supply can be found on South Topeka Boulevard, halfway between Frito-Lay and Forbes Field. Our current winner for the week, it is the fake firefighter, the gentleman in Chino Hills, California, who really wanted to be a firefighter and also really wanted to harass citizens and carry guns and combine a lot of those things all at once. The Santa Muerte fire department, not real, not a real thing.
He could have done all that without setting up the website and the LinkedIn page.
A whole website with active, real working links on it, a semi-legit appearing
They'll believe it if it's on the internet. If it's on the internet, it's got to be real.
Really incredible stuff out in California. He's 42 years old, man. No need to act like that. My story for today will take us to Flagler County, Florida, a regular destination on What Is Wrong With You, where a trespassing dispute at a Florida golf course community landed a homeowner in jail after he sprayed a passing woman in the face with a garden hose. It turns out that the man was mistaken about where his property line ended, according to the sheriff's office in a news release. The incident happened back on Friday, July 21st, so just 6 days ago, in an unincorporated area about 70 miles northeast of Orlando. Deputies were summoned to a home in the Plantation Bay Golf and Country Club when the suspect's wife called 911 to complain the victim displayed a gun, according to the sheriff's office. After investigating the incident, deputies determined the homeowner had been the one to escalate the incident by spraying the victim in the face with a garden hose after yelling at her for allegedly being on his property line. The victim said that while she was retreating to her vehicle, the man followed her while yelling at her, which put her in fear that she was going to be attacked. So she pulled out her gun for safety. Once the homeowner went back inside, the victim put away the firearm, stood by her vehicle, and waited for deputies. An investigation revealed that the woman had not actually been on the man's property. The homeowner further escalated the dispute when he, quote, followed her to her vehicle in an aggressive manner. The property owner is a 62-year-old man who was arrested and charged with misdemeanor simple battery. He was transported to Advent Health for medical clearance and then to a detention center without incident and was later released.
Well, at least spraying with the garden hose, not with the yapper.
Yeah, that's true. Rather get hit with water than a bullet.
That would have been much worse.
Yeah, so to summarize this guy thought someone was on his property. She was not. He got PO'd at her and walked after her with a garden hose and sprayed her in the face with it. She felt freaked out and pulled out her gun. He went back into the house, and then she called 911. Just complete overkill, dude. Also, like, this dude clearly never lived in the suburbs. Like, growing up, we had a corner house when I was growing up. People just walked across the grass all the time. Like, yeah, I mean, it's not nice. There's a sidewalk. But
right. Respect
just
other people's property.
It happens. Like, you live in a golf course, dude. People are walking on the grass. It happens.
Right.
Get over yourself.
You're lucky people aren't, playing their second shots on whatever hole
right
out of your backyard. Don't overreact. Story for me today, we go to Blair County, Pennsylvania. This one has been a real grower on me. I thought it was pretty good when I found it. I think it's really funny now. 2 men are facing charges after state police said they found them with random credit cards and filling up a truck bed with diesel fuel. Tuesday night, July 25th, around 10 p.m., state police were called to the Martin General Store on East Pleasant Valley Boulevard in Antis Township. They were informed that 2 men, later identified as 29-year-old Elvis Clay Morphy Garcia, 29, of Elizabeth, New Jersey, and 40-year-old Andres Cuellar of Hialeah, Florida, were trying to purchase $1,455.27 in diesel fuel. Upon arrival, troopers said the store manager accused the duo of stealing diesel from other locations and that they were at the same location the day before doing the same thing. According to the criminal complaints, the trooper approached a covered truck at the gas pumps and noted they could smell the fuel before talking to Cuellar. Cuellar allegedly agreed to let troopers look in the bed of the truck, and the troopers found a reservoir filled with diesel fuel. The duo was allegedly found with multiple credit cards that didn't match any of the receipts the manager printed out. Troopers noted that employees confirmed that the duo were the only 2 who've used the pump. Both Cuellar and Morphy Garcia are facing felony access device charges, as well as a charge of theft. They were placed in prison with bail set at $30,000 each. So, we always ask ourselves why, and we love, like, the stupidest why is what makes for a great what is wrong with you, particularly our current weekly champion, where we can't, for the life of us, figure out the why. These guys thought they were going to run their own gas station, obviously, and they were going to use other people's money to pay for the diesel fuel that they were then probably going to sell out of the back of their truck.
This is quite literally a plot line from an episode of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. one of that show's most famous episodes. This is literally the plot. They try to buy gasoline, wait for the prices to go up, and then resell it. Yeah. That's unbelievable.
They have like garbage bags full of gasoline.
Oh my God. When I first saw the headline of this story, by the way, I legitimately thought they just like poured it into the back of the truck. Like they just squeezed the trigger on the pump and were just like pouring it into the truck bed. Because the URL of it says duo accused of filling truck bed with diesel. So I thought like they poured it into the truck bed. I don't think they work like that. Not quite that dumb, but yeah, this is incredible.
Just filling up the truck with diesel. I mean, I know gas isn't exactly cheap.
No,
But still, $1,455 in gas is quite a lot.
that is a ton. A ton. Holy smokes. Wow, this is a really good day of stories. I might go with the stolen diesel here.
That's the direction I was leaning.
There's the other one. You almost have to take points away for it being Florida. Like, it's just any other day in Flagler County. Also, like, you got retirees wiling out. Like, it just sort of happens in Florida. This other one, I just am. Why didn't you take a little bit more time to think this through? Which I guess is kind of the explanation for a lot of our stories. All right, let's go with that. The stolen diesel is today's winner. But does that one topple the fake firefighter?
No, the fake firefighter is going to be a strong contender here as we get into the semifinals tomorrow.
He had so much stuff. There's a picture from the San Bernardino Sheriff's Office. He's got in the neighborhood of 10 guns. No, more than that. I didn't even see the handguns. Okay, so he, I think, has 13 guns, maybe more, in his collection. Body armor, multiple computers with those tough cases on them.
How do you think he got, because he's got the long guns too. How do you think he got those? Do you think he got them at a discount? Do you think he said, hey, I'm buying on behalf of the extremely real Santa Muere Fire Department?
Yeah, like, did he show up at a gun show and buy them and say, oh, yeah, this is for first responders?
Yes, I'm buying these for first responders, firefighters.
You ever heard of the Santa Muerte Fire Department? Actually, don't answer that question.
I'm still like, I'm legitimately going to Google, do firefighters need guns?
I genuinely do not know. Maybe there are some that carry. I don't know. I've never known any who do.
Yeah, it looks like it's a you can.
Okay. That would see, but even so, like, that wouldn't be my like go-to. Ooh, I want to act like a firefighter. What should I have on me? Gun. That's not the first thing I think of. That's not on the board if you're answering that question on Family Feud, right?
Right.
Like, survey says, no, you're not having gun pop up. Hose.
The 5-alarm fire. Shoot it.
Just unbelievable. That is still our winner in What Is Wrong With You, the fake firefighter from the Santa Muerte Fire Department in California. Brought to you by Top City Metal Supply. Metal cut to order when you need it. Top City Metal Supply on South Topeka Boulevard. Coming up next, we'll talk a little Chiefs training camp here on 580 Sports Talk. 446, 580 Sports Talk. Brendan, Dan, thanks for hanging out with us today. Still taking your texts, 785-272-9429. Still taking your comments on YouTube. Our stream is on our channel, which is called Sports on 580 WIBW. Just head to youtube.com, search Sports on 580. That's the easiest way to find us. No practice and no audio from Chiefs camp today, but Dan, you saw a very interesting piece from Nate Taylor over at The Athletic. Whose stock is rising? Whose stock is falling so far at Chiefs camp? And I am particularly interested, I would say, and I hate to start this negatively, but I am most interested in the falling section first of Nate Taylor's Chiefs camp stock watch by one player in particular. And I saw a tweet about this yesterday that he was not taking first team reps. Cornerback Jalen Watson, who last year was one of the breakout players for this Chiefs defense. Here's what Nate writes about him. Johnson's ascension, that's Najee Johnson, last year's 7th round pick, who's had a great camp so far. Johnson's ascension appears to have disrupted Watson's repetitions the most. All of Watson's reps in Wednesday's practice came with the second team defense, a surprise, since he entered camp in position to compete for the final starting spot alongside McDuffie and Snead. In the team's work Sunday and Monday, the Chiefs limited snaps for Snead and McDuffie since both missed most of the offseason program. After Monday's practice, Spags gave a sharp critique of Jalen Watson. Well, we assume it's Jalen Watson. It was a second-year corner who wasn't Trent McDuffie or Najee Johnson. And Spags said, quote, I had to remind one of them, and I won't say who, that he was going back to his old rookie habits instead of where he eventually got to. So it was either Josh Williams or Jalen Watson. And based on the fact that Watson fell to the second team, I would imagine that's him. That is fascinating to me because I thought, that happens. And corners, it's tough. For your first couple of years in the league, it is tough as a corner. That opens up, I think, a very interesting competition at that second boundary corner opening or second boundary corner starting job because we know McDuffie's in, we know Snead's in the slot. I wonder what the competition looks like and how close Johnson or anyone else is to Watson standing there.
And this may be nothing more than just a motivational technique.
Mhm.
This may be like, this is what Jalen Watson needs to be motivated, to practice better, to perform better, is a kick in the butt, is a demotion. Like some people respond really well to things like that. Some players don't respond really well to things like that. I don't know which of those Jalen Watson is necessarily, but that's what this could be. I think we're too early in camp to say definitively that, oh, Najee Johnson is clearly past Jalen Watson on the depth chart.
Mhm.
But we know that they're high on Najee Johnson. And so I think what this does suggest, I think we can fairly infer, is that there is a good deal of competition for that starting spot. That the Chiefs, and we kind of suspected this, given the impact that Watson and Williams had, given the Chiefs had the comfort level to trade Rashad Fenton midway through last season. I think they really like their depth and are comfortable with any one of those three guys starting opposite Trent McDuffie with L'Jarius Snead in the slot. I really do. I think they're letting them fight it out in camp. And I suspect whoever has the best camp and the best preseason is going to be the guy who starts week one. And that's not to say that the other guys aren't going to play. Obviously, not how it works. Like they'll get their reps. But it does feel a little bit more like an open competition instead of there's a nailed on number 2 corner on the boundary. And I think that's a positive, especially if it's all guys who came in together. All guys who were rookies together last year. That should make for really good competition, healthy competition. And it will benefit the defense.
And as we know, progression is not linear in the NFL. Like it's not, Watson was very good as a rookie and as a 7th round rookie at that. And he's only going to keep getting better. And then by year 4, he'll be an all-pro. Like that's not really how it works. And we all know that. So maybe it's just a little bit of a blip. Maybe he already is what he is. That happens sometimes, and Johnson's on the way up. Hard to say for sure, but I do think that throwing a bunch of numbers at the position, so to speak, does help because they have been so good at finding talent. So good at finding the right talent at those cornerback and safety spots that I'm not worried by any means. They'll find the right guy for the right role, but I do think that's an interesting one to keep an eye on. The other one that I don't think is it's not the same to me that like, oh, Watson, surprising. He was a starter and now he might not be a starter. But competition for a backup job or a quote-unquote backup job. I think the Chiefs are going to use multiple tight ends a lot this year. I think it's partially the fact that Noah Gray is going to spend more time as an H-back or a true fullback. But you have Jody Fortson coming back. Blake Bell is still on the roster. Obviously, Travis Kelce is your number one. Matt Bushman is a very interesting piece here. As Nate writes, let's have Matt Nagy, Chiefs offensive coordinator, explain why Bushman is ascending. Quote, the guy doesn't drop the ball. He's always in the right spot at the right time. Does that sound like something the Chiefs want out of their pass catchers? Always be in the right place at the right time? Because the ball can come to you at any point?
Why, yes.
Even better for the Chiefs, Nate Taylor writes, Bushman looks faster and more confident in the Chiefs scheme after spending last season on the practice squad. One of the team periods Tuesday, including Mahomes completing a pass to Bushman, who caught the ball against tight coverage from McDuffie. A stellar preseason from him could lead to earning a roster spot. Now, similarly, on the his stock is rising, according to Nate. In the stock falling category, Blake Bell is listed there, as is Jody Fortson. And again, we're early in camp. We are not even to preseason game one yet. A lot of things can change. Things are different with with veterans versus rookies versus guys who've been in the practice squad versus newcomers. Obviously, everybody has a different grade to scale. But if you remember training camp last year, Matt Bushman was a name that came up a lot. And in the last preseason game, they featured him a lot, mostly because they didn't want to get their other guys hurt.
Yeah, he caught a touchdown pass, I think, from Buechele.
But also, they were trying to help him out a little bit. He's a BYU guy. Andy Reid always likes to help out those BYU guys.
Mm-hmm.
That was a guy who popped up a lot last year. I am very fascinated by the depth in that tight end room because I think they'll keep 4. I don't know that they'll keep more than that. And if the old guy Bell is maybe not on his game anymore, or if Fortson with all those injuries is maybe a step slower than he needs to be, maybe Bushman finds his way onto the roster.
I misspoke. It was 2 touchdowns that Bushman caught in that preseason game against the Packers.
Wow.
The other thing that happened in that game was he got hurt.
Mm-hmm.
And so they put him on the IR, and it's, kind of where they waived him and then they put him on the IR and released him in September, but then added him back to the practice squad in December.
Yeah.
So kind of an interesting path
Mm-hmm.
for him, but he was on the roster through the end of the year, through the playoffs. I think he's probably got a Super Bowl ring, signed a futures contract. When teams start signing guys to futures contracts,
Mm-hmm.
he was a guy the Chiefs had their eye on and wanted to make sure that they retained his rights through the spring and the summer. He's a big dude, 6'5", 245. He's bigger than Noah Gray. Not as big as Blake Bell, but he's bigger than Noah Gray is. I think that he's got a real shot to make the team. And I think that might be at the expense. Look, I mean, Blake Bell, obviously, he's a Kansan. He's had some great moments. Caught a touchdown pass last year from Mahomes. I want to say that was it the late season game. But he's also 31 years old.
Yeah.
And he's also, coming off of an injury last year. And if he is starting to slow down, that wouldn't be a surprise. That's what happens to the guys that aren't Hall of Fame caliber guys. They get hurt and they get older and they start to slow down a bit. This might be a chance for the Chiefs to get a little bit younger and maybe a little bit more physical and maybe even more dynamic offensively at the position if they're really comfortable with him in the passing game the way they seem to be.
We will have audio from Chiefs camp coming up tomorrow, both on Mic'd Up and here on 580 Sports Talk as they get back onto the field. Right now, we're going to wrap up this 4 o'clock hour. Come on back for the 5 o'clock hour, though. We've got plenty to get to. A bunch going on around the NFL. Some scary injury notes from around the league. Jalen Ramsey, Joe Burrow. We'll get you updates on both of them. The MLB trade deadline hot stove heating up, and the Angels are absolutely going for it. By the way, Shohei Ohtani is on one today. All that and more coming up next hour on 580 Sports Talk. 1 hour to go on 580 Sports Talk on this Thursday, July 27th. I'm Brendan Dworzinski. He's Dan Lucero. Thank you so much for hanging out with us on this Thursday afternoon. We appreciate it today and every day you come stop by the program. Whether you're listening on 580 WIBW AM, FM 104.9, online at 580WIBW.com, or checking us out on our video stream on YouTube at our channel Sports on 580 WIBW. We appreciate you on this Thursday afternoon. Coming up in this final hour of the show, we'll get to our headlines. We'll get to a rant, a screed, I don't even know what you would call it, from Sean Payton just tearing into Nathaniel Hackett. Just ripping the dude to shreds. It's one of those situations, you know, the Big Lebowski line, you're not wrong, you're just you know what?
I think about Marge Simpson's version of that, watching television on the couch. Well, that's true, but he shouldn't say it.
Yeah, pretty much. It's very funny. We'll say that.
Yeah, it's hysterical. I couldn't believe what I was reading as I was reading it today.
Yeah, it's kind of amazing. So we'll get to that later on this hour, plus your texts and your comments on the YouTube feed, all coming up in this hour of 580 Sports Talk. And again, the place to get involved if you want to be a part of the show, text line 785-272-9429. And on YouTube, again, the name of our channel is Sports on 580 WIBW. Go subscribe if you haven't already. Best place to find all of our video content. With that, it is time for our 580 Sports Talk headlines for this Thursday, July 27th. And headline number one, we've been over it at the top of the 3 o'clock hour, top of the 4 o'clock hour, but it was made official just over half an hour ago. The University of Colorado and Colorado Buffaloes athletics are headed back to the Big 12 Conference. The Colorado Board of Regents today voted unanimously to send CU Boulder back to the Big 12. They will spend one more athletic and academic year as members of the Pac-12 Conference before they depart next summer and rejoin the Big 12, where they were members for 62 years, beginning in the late 1940s up until 2010. This is a big day for college football, really for all of college sports. It's a great day for the Big 12. I believe, and I know you believe as well, a great day for Colorado. It is a very bad day for the Pac-12, and this was known. And I saw Jason Scheer from 24/7 Sports say on his Twitter, hey, look, based on the way everybody is talking at this meeting, and I had it up, but I wasn't listening. I was hosting my radio show. He said, this sounds like this has been talked about for weeks. Like, this was not a spur-of-the-moment thing. This was very much, okay, we just have to finalize this and get out of here. The meeting was done in 20 minutes. Okay, that was not a long discussion they had to have before voting. So the Pac-12 knew this was coming for sure, but it doesn't make it any better for them. It is expected that by the end of tonight, or at least by the end of this week, that they will have given the Pac-12, approval to George Kliavkoff to go find a 10th member for the conference so they can keep negotiating a media contract. It is a disaster for them at the moment. There's really no other way to put this. Whereas for the Big 12, hey, you brought back not a founding member, but they may as well, a founding member of the Big 12, not of the Big 8, but they may as well be. They were around for decades and decades. You're getting old rivalries back. You're getting a great road trip back. You've got a natural traveling partner with BYU now. That is a positive thing. It's a great day for the Big 12 Conference. Unanimously, I think, across the board, positives here for the Big 12.
Yeah, it's great for the league. It's great for the league. I think even if there are some Colorado fans who maybe don't agree right off the bat, in the long run, it's going to be great for them. The stability that they seek, that initially they left the Big 12 to seek. And like I said yesterday when this news was breaking, they were not wrong to do what they did in 2010 to go to the Pac-12 when they had that lifeboat and it looked like Texas was going to take all the Texas schools and go to the Pac-12 and that the Big 12 was going to cease to exist. Colorado didn't do the wrong thing. Mm-hmm. They made the play they had to make because you have to ensure in the conference realignment era, you have to ensure the stability of your athletic department by being in a stable conference situation. And they fled a unstable Big 12
yep.
for the Pac-12, and now they are doing the opposite. And I didn't blame them 13 years ago, and I don't blame them today. I don't.
I have seen a lot of, well, this wouldn't be happening if they hadn't hired Coach Prime, and
maybe not.
I don't know. That's the reality, so I don't know. But I will say this about them, and even if, well, he's not even going to be there in 5 years. He's not even going to stick around. If he's bad, they're going to fire him, and if he's great, he's going to leave for a better job. Well, if you're Colorado, doesn't that make it even smarter to move right now? Like, to me, that
strike
says,
while the iron is hot.
Yeah, that says they needed to get this done even more badly than if you thought he was going to be there for the next 20 years because, hey, we've got the cachet right now. We've got the popularity. We want to make sure that we're locked in somewhere. We have no idea what this conference is going to look like in the Pac-12 tomorrow at this point. Let's go somewhere where we know we're going to be a part of that conference. We are not going to have to worry about the future. We're not going to have to worry about being good or bad, frankly. We're going to be just locked in. That makes all the sense in the world for Colorado to do this. This is great for the Big 12. This is where they belong.
Some more reporting. Ross Dellinger, who was on this story, now working at Yahoo, but was on this story when he was at Sports Illustrated when this started. He tweeted earlier this afternoon, Big 12 officials expressed strong confidence in landing CU since early May. Negotiations went deep. Verbal agreements were made. While Big 12 talks with Arizona curtailed, those with CU remained steady and intensified, said one Big 12 source of CU on Saturday. I think we got him. Dellinger also reports one of the driving forces behind Colorado's move, though far from the only one, was the desire of Deion Sanders to play in a league whose footprint includes Texas, a recruiting hotbed and a place that CU has in the past found recruiting success. That past didn't really include their Pac-12 years because they really focused their recruiting on the West Coast. And I think that was ultimately to their detriment. And I think the proof is in the results.
Yeah.
Brett McMurphy of Action Network is reporting that there will be a 14th school. I'll read from McMurphy's tweet from about 20 minutes ago. Big 12 will add between 1 and 3 schools to join Colorado in 2024, sources told Action Network. League will first seek others from Pac-12 to join. If none do so, Big 12 would add one group of 5 to reach an even number of teams in 2024. Among the teams listed as group of 5 possibilities, UConn, Memphis, who we haven't brought up today, San Diego State, or UNLV.
So we had Vance on YouTube also ask, is San Diego State next to do something here? If I was going to rank those teams of the G5, I would order it in terms of best fit or most wanted versus worst fit or least wanted. I'd say UConn is number 1 by a sizable distance. Then I would put San Diego State. You guarantee that last time zone, West Coast, you'll always have games all day long. It's San Diego. Mm-hmm. That's a positive. Then another sizable move, drop off. Memphis and then UNLV. I get it's Vegas. I don't get adding UNLV. When was the last time UNLV was legitimately good at anything?
Man, it's even been a while for basketball.
Yeah, it's been a long while. And their football team is actually on the way up, but being they don't have a great football heritage there, and being maybe bowl eligible in the Mountain West is not exactly awesome.
UNLV hasn't been to the men's basketball tournament since 2013.
Wow, that's crazy for that program.
They've only got 2 20-win seasons even since, and that's where they've topped out is 20 on the nose.
Wow.
In 2014 and in 2018. Yeah, I think part of the reason is they haven't had a coach there long enough to make. Maybe if they'd hung on to TJ Otzelberger, maybe that looks a little better. But
then after that, Memphis is trying. They would love to be in another conference. They have made many overtures. They're redoing the Liberty Bowl.
Yeah.
They're going to rehab that big time. They're putting a lot of money into that, which is great. And it certainly needs it. They've been competitive in basketball. Their football at times has been very competitive too. I can see it. I think UConn and SDSU bring a lot more to the table than Memphis does, but I could see it. I wouldn't hate it. I am at a point where I would not be super surprised at all. In fact, I'm 51%, I would say, expecting a Pac-12 school. I do. I think it'll be Utah or one of the flagship schools in Oregon or Washington. Honestly, if you're one of those schools, and I said this when we were talking to Fulton last hour, why wouldn't you jump at this opportunity? Like it's over for that league as it is currently constructed. And I hate to get super into the weeds, so I apologize in advance. As an Autonomy 5 conference, the legal standing of these conferences is having more power, more autonomy. That's not going away for the Pac-12. They'll find a way to make it work to not completely die. But as a legitimate Power 5, which is a colloquial term, they're dead. It's over. It's done with. No USC, no UCLA. They're down to 9 members. They're going to add a weaker member to fill it out. And Oregon and Washington are gone the minute they get a call from the Big Ten or possibly anyone else. Like if you're Utah, I don't think Oregon State or Washington State would go, certainly if you're those schools. If you are Arizona or hell, Arizona State, even though for some reason they want to stick around, why wouldn't you want to jump at a sure thing here? It would not make business sense to me. And I know I'm close to the Big 12 situation, so I get that bias, but I don't know why you would man, I know the Titanic is sinking, but this shuffleboard game has been great. Like, I can't jump off yet.
Like, if you're Oregon and Washington, I understand if you really firmly believe you're going to get a Big Ten invite at some point.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a little less convinced that is the case, particularly because Big Ten leadership has explicitly said that that's not the case.
Right?
Like, they're not looking to expand any further. 16, like, it gets really unwieldy if you go to 18. And if you're going to go to that number, it better be somebody like Notre Dame. Like that's who it makes sense to go beyond 16 for, not Oregon and Washington. So if you're Oregon and Washington, yeah, why wouldn't the Big 12 be more appealing to you right now? I think that we've seen and established that loyalty to your in-state school, that doesn't mean anything anymore. Oklahoma left Oklahoma State in the Big 12. They didn't bother to worry about what Oklahoma State wanted. They did what was best for the University of Oklahoma. Why wouldn't Oregon and Washington do the same and not worry so much about what's best for Oregon State and what's best for Washington State? I don't understand why the answer would be no, or why the answer would be, well, let's wait and see what we do. Because right now, the Pac-12's best option to be viable enough to get a TV deal that's going to be long-term, because you're not getting a TV deal with 9 schools.
No,
it's not happening. The writing is on the wall. You have to get to 10. And as we laid out earlier in the program, getting to 10 in 2024, realistically, the schools that would do it, the G5 schools that would do it, can't afford the exit fee.
Yeah.
And the Pac-12 isn't going to pay that exit fee for them. San Diego State can't afford $34 million exit fee.
No chance.
So I just don't know why, if you're Arizona, if you're Oregon, if you're Washington, why you aren't working the phones right now. Because I'll tell you what, if they bring Arizona, Oregon, and Washington, then you've got a 16-team league that is firmly, undoubtedly, the third best of the Autonomy 5 leagues. Like, firmly, not even close. And then if you're the Pac-12, yeah, you maybe can pick up the pieces over the long term with San Diego State, and then you can maybe add Colorado State, add Boise State, and get the best you can of those West Coast or Southwestern schools that have been successful, have good programs in some of those G5 leagues. But man, if you don't want to get left behind, the time is now for Arizona, Oregon, and Washington in particular. I am shocked that they would not. I would be shocked if there was a hand extended that they would not take it.
Simply enough, like, take a cue from the conference right now. Waiting does not work.
Especially because there's no exit fees right now.
Right.
Once you get a new grant of rights, there's going to be exit fees you're going to have to worry about if you want to take an invite from some other place.
Yep.
Get while the getting's good.
Big news, though. The one thing that is official, Colorado, after one more year in the Pac-12, is coming back to where they belong in the Big 12 conference.
Somebody just retweeted a graphic from the Reddit college football Twitter account of the scoreboard from, what is that, Super Bowl 52. or 51, I believe it is, where the Falcons led the Patriots 28-3.
Yes, I believe that was 50. 51? I think that's 51.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Except the Pac-12 logo is superimposed over the Falcons logo, and the Big 12 logo is superimposed over the Patriots logo.
Unbelievable.
That's kind of what it feels like.
Yeah, it really does.
So first headline for me as we continue our 580 Sports Talk headlines, let's get you some injury news from the NFL. This is breaking from Adam Schefter regarding Jalen Ramsey, the 6-time Pro Bowl cornerback now of the Miami Dolphins. He is going to need knee surgery. He was injured at practice today, had a collision with Tyreek Hill. Sounded like they went knee on knee, and Ramsey had to be carted off the practice field. Turns out that is an injury severe enough to require surgery. He is expected to miss the start of the regular season. However, there is some good news. Ramsey's ACL is intact, so there doesn't appear to be significant ligament damage that would require a season-long absence for Ramsey, who was traded to the Dolphins this offseason. But knee surgery for Jalen Ramsey. I know a lot of people really high on the Dolphins coming into this year. He's a big addition to their defense, and he is going to miss the start of the season. There was also, earlier today, much consternation regarding video of Joe Burrow, the star quarterback of the Cincinnati Bengals, coming up lame at practice, clutching at his right calf, on which he was wearing a compression sleeve to practice in today. Burrow had to be carted off the practice field. Mitchell Schwartz points this out on Twitter. Very good poster, Mitchell Schwartz, and makes a really good point that when you see or hear about somebody being carted off at practice, don't assume the worst, because usually it's a really long walk to get from the practice field to the training facility. So the cart is just the easiest way to get a guy there.
And he said at Chiefs camp in particular, which is where he has a lot of experience, it's uphill. You don't want a guy on a bum knee walking uphill.
Yeah, you would rather cart him even if it's just a stub toe. You're going to probably cart a guy off the field. So don't read too much into the cart portion of these stories. That's something I had never thought about until I saw Schwartz's tweet.
Interestingly, he tweeted that in response to the Jalen Ramsey injury this morning. And then that's the first thing I thought of when I saw the Burrow injury is, well, I'm not going to worry about the cart because Mitchell Schwartz told me not to.
Bengals head coach Zach Taylor said that it was a calf injury sustained by Burrow, but there are no further details at this time.
I hope he's okay. I hope it's nothing more than a strained calf for Burrow. If it's that, he's only probably got a couple of weeks of rehab in front of him. He doesn't need to play in the preseason. He doesn't. Just get him ready for week 1. That's all that matters. If it's a bigger tear than that, hard to say. Still better than if it was an Achilles or something. There's no doubt about that, but just hope he's all right and he doesn't miss any time, because he truly is a special guy. Jalen Ramsey, this sucks. I mean, this blows for him. I'm glad it's not worse. I'm glad it's not a torn ACL. This is with training camp comes all the excitement, but it also comes this. You're just practicing. You're not even into full padded practices yet, and guys are getting banged up and are going to miss weeks of the regular season and miss all this training camp time. That sucks. And it's hard as a corner, too, to come back from this stuff. And I know Jalen Ramsey's an all-timer, but, man, that is absolutely brutal for the Miami Dolphins. Next up on our 580 Sports Talk headlines for today, the trade deadline hot stove heating up. Last night, the Los Angeles Angels made it clear we are not trading Shohei Ohtani. They came out with a statement and said, we are not going to trade Shohei Ohtani. We are going to keep him. He is off the market. We're going for it, essentially. And they proved that by the end of last night's games, literally minutes after the Chicago Cubs came back from a 5-run deficit and beat the Chicago White Sox 10-7. Had to sneak that in there. The White Sox traded arguably the best starting pitcher on the market and a decent relief pitcher, Lucas Giolito and Ronaldo Lopez, to the Angels for 2 of the Angels' top 3 prospects, according to MLBpipeline.com. So Lucas Giolito and Ronaldo Lopez are now Los Angeles Angels. They are legitimately going for it, which is good. You, in all likelihood, have maybe 2 months left of the best baseball player in the world and one of the greatest players in the history of the sport, who, by the way, in a doubleheader today for the Angels, threw a complete game shutout and then hit 2 home runs in the second game. He is a freak.
Yes, that is his thank you. That is Shohei Ohtani saying, all right, you guys are going for it. We're going for it. Bet. And they're going to sweep the Tigers in a doubleheader. They're up 8-2 in the 8th in the nightcap of that doubleheader presently. They have played very good baseball since the All-Star break. They have not been to the postseason since 2014. Their fans deserve this. Their players deserve this. It's going to be fun to watch them try and fun to watch them go for it with the best baseball player alive. Mike Trout's going to come back eventually. For you Royals fans, Mike Moustakas is on the team. I don't know if y'all knew that.
Yeah.
But that's where Mike Moustakas ended up. So you root for Moose playing for his hometown team. He's a Southern California kid. So, a lot to like about what the Angels are doing. I am all for teams deciding, you know what? We're going to go for it.
Yep.
And as much as I don't love the expanded postseason in baseball, more playoff spots means more teams should decide we are going to try to be competitive. We are going to try and get one of those playoff spots because who knows? Who knows? Maybe we sneak in, but maybe we catch fire in October and we can be the Phillies and be playing for a championship.
And I hope it happens. And at the trade deadline 2 years ago, the Braves, they were not exactly lighting the world on fire. So it is certainly possible. And I'm happy to see more teams going for it. I'm happy to see the Angels going for it. More Ohtani, more Trout. Those are good things. They added a dang good pitcher. Lucas Giolito not having his best year, but he's a good pitcher. He's always been a good arm, well, ever since his first year in Chicago anyway. That's a good ad for them.
It's also very funny that Reynaldo Lopez has been traded twice in his career, and both times it was with Lucas Giolito.
Isn't that crazy? Unbelievable. By the way, another trade that went down yesterday. The Guardians sent Ahmed Rosario, shortstop, to the Dodgers in exchange for Noah Syndergaard. That is a big time, maybe you can fix this guy and we can fix that guy trade. Rosario's not hit a lick this year.
No.
Syndergaard has been horrible.
Really, really bad.
Back in my simulation baseball game status pro days, this is what my friends and I call the crap for crap.
It's a challenge trade.
Ah.
That's a more friendly way to put it.
Nicer way to put it, yeah.
A challenge trade. Let's see if you can get more out of this guy than we can. And for the Guardians, I think it makes a lot of sense because they've got a bit of a middle infield log jam, and they need to find out if they can put somebody at shortstop who can hit the baseball. They've got a young kid whose name I'll get wrong, Brian Roquillo, who's one of their top prospects, and he has already made his major league debut earlier this year, but he should get a longer look. It's Roquillo. Brian Roquillo, yeah.
By the way, and I hope we get more trades today. That'd be fun. I love the trade deadline. One of my favorite days in the calendar. Since you stopped with your last headline about the injuries to Joe Burrow and Jalen Ramsey, we have updates on both of them. Diana Rossini of ESPN is reporting that according to her sources, it is indeed just a strained calf for Joe Burrow. That is a relief. That could have been a whole lot worse. And honestly, watching him limp after he strained it, some guys it affects differently than others, walking versus limping or whatever. It is so freaking hot everywhere on earth right now. I would have been in massive pain too if my leg just tore and it was that hot. I would also not want to walk on that.
Yeah, no joke.
But that's good. That hopefully means he's not going to miss any regular season time. Rest up, don't play in the preseason. He should be fine. Also, Tom Pelissero adding a little more detail to the Jalen Ramsey injury, expected to miss at least 6 to 8 weeks. And it is a meniscus injury, to be specific, in Ramsey's knee. Doctors still need to determine whether or not they're going to remove or repair it. The reparation, interestingly, that actually leads to the longer recovery time than just removing it. So we will see. I think generally doctors prefer to repair than remove, but because that can mess up, bone on bone stuff. But athletes obviously want to get on the field a little bit sooner. If it was an 8-week injury for Ramsey from today, let me count up here, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7, 8. That would probably take him out for the first 3 weeks of the season. If that's all it is, that wouldn't be too bad if you're the Miami Dolphins. You can live with still getting 14 games out of Jalen Ramsey.
Yeah.
If it's longer than that, in that division, not so good. Not so good.
One more headline for me in our 580 Sports Talk headlines. It got a little nervous for the U.S. women's national team at the Women's World Cup last night in Auckland, New Zealand, as for the first time in 12 matches at the Women's World Cup, the Americans found themselves trailing. It was the Netherlands who got on the board first and actually took a 1-0 lead into the locker room in group stage action last night. But Lindsey Horan, with the headed goal in the second half, leveled the game at 1, and that's where it ended, leaving the United States and the Netherlands tied with 4 points through 2 group stage games. United States ahead on goal difference and total goals before the final match of 3 of the group stage. A hairy situation for an American team that has only ever lost 1 group stage match in the history of the Women's World Cup.
Wow.
And for a while there, they didn't look much like scoring. The Netherlands were the better team tactically, that is for sure. But thankfully, the United States has a great deal of skill, and they've got depth, even though their manager, Vlatko Andonovski, chose not to use any of it and only made 1 substitution the entire match. That's weird. He may not be good at his job, is what I've gathered from people who follow this more closely than me, that maybe the U.S. isn't very well managed. But Lindsey Horan, Colorado, baby. All 4 goals in the first 2 matches for the U.S. have been scored by their 2 Coloradan players.
How about that?
Sophia Smith, Lindsey Horan.
I know the U.S. had another goal waved off for an offside.
Yes.
Apparently, it was pretty clear.
Yes, it was a blatant offside. I was explaining it. My wife and I were watching last night. I was explaining it to Abby last night, and I use like coasters to try and illustrate the point on our coffee table. And her decision is that offsides is dumb, and I have trouble disagreeing.
I was going to ask, as someone who watches more soccer than I do, and that like any soccer, is the rule too strict? I was watching the night before. It was the Philippines versus New Zealand game. If that sounds like wild, it kind of is for me because I don't watch soccer. But the Filipino team is almost all Americans. 18 of the 23 players on the roster are from the United States or were born in the United States. It's an interesting loophole. Anyway, they're a unique story. They had a goal waved off for offside. They waved it off, or it might have been New Zealand's goal, because the player was leaning over the line. They didn't have their foot across it. It wasn't even the majority of their body. Literally only their shoulder was leaning in front of it. They went to VAR and they overruled it. They said, no, that's not a goal. That seems insane.
Yeah, VAR overturning like that level of offside is sort of like when they overturn a safe call in baseball because the runner's like toenail came off the base for a millisecond while the tag was still being applied. Like letter of the law, that's the correct call. Spirit of the law, man, you're taking a long time to review and you're taking the thrill out of the game. Yeah, I think I am a big believer that I was big pro replay. I think we have too much replay. Maybe there need to be coaches challenges in soccer. You get 1 a match.
Maybe.
I don't know. But yeah, it can be called really, really tight. It can be by the margin of a fingertip. Or last year in the men's World Cup final, where it was the girth of the Argentine defender's ass that kept the runner for France onside.
Unbelievable.
He did have too much junk in the trunk. That's the only reason the player was onside.
Those are our 580 Sports Dog headlines for today. Coming up on the other side of this commercial break, Sean Payton letting the last Broncos regime have it earlier today. We'll explain what we mean next on 580 Sports Talk.
The best.
Brendan and Dan here with you on 580 Sports Talk, 5:37 on the program on this Thursday afternoon. It's my last day here for a while. I'll be gone for a bit. Vacation time. To soak up the sun. It might be warmer here than it is in South Carolina.
It very well could be.
Yeah.
It is extremely hot.
Yeah. I mean, it's hot down there too, but there's also ocean. So I guess I'll take that trade-off. So it'll be just Dan with you tomorrow and throughout next week. Kyle will be stopping by as well to be running the show behind the glass. We'll be on a regular time tomorrow starting at 3 o'clock for 580 Sports Talk. Sean Payton has never been he's never been like a shrinking violet, right? Not really a wallflower.
No.
He when he's got thoughts, he is willing to share them. I actually thought Sean Payton was pretty good on TV last year when he was with Fox, among other places. And he had some thoughts he shared with, who is this? Jarrett Bell from USA Today. He was being interviewed by Bell, who's doing a story. This is the time when all of your favorite NFL writers and general assignment writers from every single major media outlet is going to go to training camps all over the country. And we're going to get a lot of Chiefs, Broncos, Chargers, Packers, Jets, Bills, Bengals. You're going to see like a million stories on about 14 teams.
Yeah, it's usually how it works. You're not getting deep dive into like what's going on at Titans camp.
No, you will not hear a word about the Titans. No one is going to know 80% of the Texans roster this year unless you like live next to the stadium.
Unless you're a real fantasy football like IDP sicko and you think D'Amico Ryan is going to elevate the value of the Texans defensive players.
Have you ever played in an IDP league?
Long time ago. I will never do it again.
Real sicko stuff.
Absolutely.
Really
yes.
is. The individual defensive player for those who aren't into the fantasy sports world. But this piece on Sean Payton and the Broncos and taking off after the Nathaniel Hackett failed experiment and the first year of Russell Wilson, really fascinating stuff from Sean Payton. And he says, among other things, to lead off the story, can I say this to you? I'm going to be pissed off if this is not a playoff team. Okay. He's aggressive. I like that. I like the confidence.
Wants to win.
Okay.
He's been a winner. His teams went to the playoffs much more often than not in New Orleans. I understand that that's his standard.
Then he goes on to say, hey, we're going to be on time. We're going to learn how rewarding it is to play for each other, to compete for each other rather than for ourselves. And I expect us to think playoffs. All right.
Steak head coach speak. And there's nothing wrong with this.
And and then it takes a turn. Quote, it doesn't happen often where an NFL team or organization gets embarrassed. And that happened here. Part of it was their own fault relative to spending so much bleeping time trying to win the offseason, the PR, the pomp and circumstance, marching people around and all this stuff. We're not doing any of that. The Jets did that this year. You watch. Hard Knocks, all of it. I can see it coming. Remember when Dan Snyder put that dream team together? I was at the Giants in 2000. I was a young coach. I thought, how are we going to compete with them? Dion's there now. That team won 8 games or whatever. So listen, just put the work in. And yeah, he did not have a whole lot of great things to say about Nathaniel Hackett.
So we'll get to the Hackett comments in a moment. But the team and the organization gets embarrassed because they were trying to win the offseason. Like all of those people you're talking about that might have been responsible for the PR, the pomp and circumstance, player acquisitions, things of that nature, they're all still there. Mm-hmm. They all work in the same building as you. George Payton is still the general manager. And this is not the last shot that George Payton takes in Sean Payton's remarks.
It keeps going here. So Jarrett Bell, the author here, he asks, what happened last year with Russell Wilson? What went on?
Reasonable question to ask, because a guy who had been an MVP candidate for many years in his career, one of the better quarterbacks in the league. Broncos expected he'd be the guy that he always was without fail pretty much in Seattle, was a disaster last season, an unmitigated disaster. So yes, that's the question. What happened? What went wrong?
Yeah, good question. Very solid journalistic question. Here's Sean Payton's answer. Quote, Oh, man. There's so much dirt around that. There's 20 dirty hands for what was allowed, tolerated in the frickin' training rooms. That's what he said. I did not edit that. The meeting rooms, the offense. I don't know, Hackett. A lot of people had dirt on their hands. It wasn't just Russell. He didn't just flip. He still has it. This BS that he hit a wall, shoot. They couldn't get a play in. They were 29th in the league in pre-snap penalties on both sides of the ball.
They couldn't get a play in. Week 2, the fans in Denver were counting off the play clock. The first home game.
Yeah. Which was so funny.
It was one of the funniest things that has ever happened.
Now, he does get into continuing to hype up his quarterback. Says that stuff, quote, that wasn't his fault. That was the parents who allowed it. That's not an incrimination on him. You don't see that word a lot, but an incrimination on the head coach, the GM, the president, and everybody else who watched it all happen.
All of those guys who are still with the Broncos organization, except for the head coach.
Except for the coach.
George Payton's still there. Damani Leach, team president, he's still there.
He goes on to say, now, a quarterback having an office and a place to watch film is normal. But all those things get magnified when you're losing. And that other stuff, I've never heard of it. We're not doing that.
A lot of great meme reactions here that you could do. You could have, like, Damani Leach, the team president. You have the you could have the 50 Cent reaction. What'd he say bleep me for?
Mm-hmm.
or McNulty from The Wire. What bleep did I do? Like, why does he need to get dragged into this?
He goes on, by the way, to add one final note. Everything I heard about last season, we're doing the opposite. I mean, losing a lot, yeah, you'd like to do the opposite of that for sure. I saw a tweet today from Jeff Duncan, who is a columnist, longtime Saints reporter for the Times-Picayune in New Orleans. And he tweeted out today, he covered Sean Payton for forever. Folks, Sean Payton is building up the confidence of his quarterback, letting him know that he's got his back. If there's collateral damage in the way of completing that mission, trust me, he doesn't care. This is all about his team and his QB, nothing more, nothing less. I do not reject that notion. I totally get where Jeff Duncan's coming from there. They're your bosses, though. That is a little bit different. Like, you take a shot at Nathaniel Hackett, he's probably in New York, like, dude, what the hell? But
yeah.
That, whatever. The Broncos do not care about that. They'd probably like to never hear Nathaniel Hackett's name again, but whatever. But if you're the president, you're the GM, you're thinking, dude, we hired you. We signed your check. What the hell? What the hell is this?
Yeah, and look, every negative thing you can say about Nathaniel Hackett is probably accurate. Peyton in the article also says it might have been one of the worst coaching jobs in the history of the NFL. There's no might have about it, and we knew that when they bungled the clock at the end of week 1 in Seattle. Like, we knew it was going to be a disaster, and it was. You want to say that, you want to rip Nathaniel Hackett, you want to do that as a means of standing up for your players. I get it. Because that's what this is, right? Like, at the end of the day, this is having your players' backs. This is saying what went wrong last year for these guys. And, I mean, they made a couple of additions, but by and large, this is the same team. They didn't have that much turnover. Russell Wilson's still back. Still got all those wide receivers back. They made a couple additions on both sides of the line, but they didn't have a lot of draft picks that they brought in because they gave a bunch of them up in the Russell Wilson trade. They gave one up to get Sean Payton so they could hire him. It's pretty much the same team. So this is his way of standing up for his team in the press and saying, these guys, it wasn't their fault. They're better than you think, and I've got their back. I've got Russell Wilson's back. I've got this team's back because they were coached by Bozo the Clown last year. And that's fine. Like, I don't have a problem with that. It's very funny. I can't recall ever reading anything like that from a coach before coming in and saying, yeah, that last coach, mega dunce. Not me. I got a ring. Like, you never see that. But yeah, the stuff about the GM and the president and the PR people, like, all right, man, you're the big dog in charge, and I guarantee you, he's got leeway from the ownership group to talk like this.
I don't think so.
Yeah, because the ownership group, George Payton has to understand, like, they don't win this year, he's not going to have a job next year.
No way.
No chance.
Like most things, this comes down to you better win. Because if you talk like this and you win, it worked. If you talk like this and you go 5-12 again, there's going to be a lot more questions than all those people he called out are going to be losing their jobs too. We have another timeout coming up after that. Maybe the funniest thing to come out of Colorado's realignment jump today. That's next on 580 Sports Talk. Funniest things about another wave of realignment and Colorado coming back to the Big 12. They will have spent less time consecutively in the Big 12 than Cincinnati, BYU, Houston, and UCF. The University of Cincinnati and their AD, John Cunningham, put out a statement about Colorado joining the league today. Quote, "We are excited to welcome the University of Colorado to the Big 12 Conference and look forward to competing against the Buffaloes. We appreciate Commissioner Brett Yormark's vision for the future of the league. We're honored to be a member of a conference that continues to be on the forefront of innovation, academic achievement, and competitive excellence." There's just something very funny about that. Like, welcome to the conference, Colorado. You must be new here. Well, not quite.
We just got here 5 minutes ago. But we got our own room.
Mm-hmm.
We got space in the fridge.
You know that door upstairs that's always locked. That's our room. You're new to that. We're not. No, I find that to be very, very funny. It really does amaze me more than anything. How more than Colorado coming back after you felt like they probably were gone forever, more than the Big 12 rising from the dead, frankly, from just a couple of years ago. How badly the Pac-12 has bungled this completely at every single stop. Their presidents, their conference brass, every leader involved got it wrong. Yeah. And that is really shocking.
They've made every wrong decision since Larry Scott took over the league. And he took over that league in a great position and seemed poised to make it a 16-team super conference before the SEC ever got there, before the Big Ten ever even thought about getting there.
Mm-hmm.
They dropped the ball. And some of that was Texas being Texas and doing whatever it is that Texas wants. But there were other actionable things Pac-12 could have done to be first. They certainly could have done better when it came to, how their games or where their games were broadcast and how readily available that broadcast network was, and how it was distributed. It's a series of wrong decisions that might end up culminating in the conference ceasing to exist.
I saw Stuart Mandel, who I don't usually like giving credit to be completely honest with you. But he had a tweet last night, I think it was, if it wasn't early this morning. And he said, arguably the most remarkable aspect of all of this is the Big 12's TV partner is locked in to pay full price for the worst program in the Pac-12 at the same time that the Pac-12 can't even lock in $1 for its best programs. I know there's more layers to it than just that. That's a simplified way of looking at it, but like that's kind of true. And that's why, again, as we've brought up, if you're Oregon, if you're Washington, if you're Utah, what are you doing? Like, we don't know that this conference will exist beyond next year.
Yeah, come roll with the winners.
If you can't beat them, join them, right? And they sure as hell ain't beating the Big 12 at this point. We have to get to one final break. We'll come back. We'll wrap up 580 Sports Talk today with the final word.
In conclusion, we better wrap it up.
What a day it has been on 580 Sports Talk, specifically in the college sports world. Let's wrap it up, Dan, with the final word.
Colorado returning to the Big 12 is a great day for both sides of that equation. Colorado did what it had to do when it left the Big 12 initially, but it lost its way as an athletic department in the Pac-12. Never really seemed to fit. Obviously never got any traction as a football program. They're going to be much better equipped to succeed, I think, in football. I think they will be much more competitive in basketball. I think they're going to be a welcome addition to the conference. Road trips to Boulder are going to be a lot of fun, and I look forward to getting credentialed for those.
Yep, this is such a good day for the Big 12. The Big 12 conference is better off for this. I know Colorado has been bad at football, but they belong playing Kansas and Kansas State and Oklahoma State and Iowa State. That is where they belong and the teams they belong playing. This strengthens the conference even more. It's eventually going to get to a 14th team. It'll be a very exciting day when that eventually happens. I feel for the Pac-12 programs that would rather this not be happening, but you keep hiring the wrong people, you keep making the wrong moves. That's kind of where you end up. But I'm happy for the Big 12, happy for our programs, and a new day continues to get even brighter for the conference. That does it today for 580 Sports Talk. That's the last day for me this week. I'll be off on vacation over the next week, so it'll be Dan piloting the ship along with Kyle Manthe for the next few days. A lot to get to tomorrow on the show. We'll talk to Matt Derrick from ChiefsDigest.com. He'll be from Chiefs Camp joining us to give us all the latest news and notes. Talk plenty more about Colorado coming to the Big 12. We will also have the semifinals for the month of July in What Is Wrong With You. All that and a whole lot more coming up tomorrow from 3 to 6 on 580 Sports Talk. Don't forget to check out the podcast at 580WIBW.com. For Dan Lucero, I'm Brendan Brzezinski. The show is back tomorrow at 3 o'clock right here on 580 WIBW.